There we go. Maybe.
It says we're live.
Hold on a second. Something didn't work. What the heck? Now I gotta fix this. What happened here? Oh, I know what happened. Ha! That's funny. It's in the wrong brand. That's why.
You put it on the wrong.
It won't let me switch.
Uh-oh.
That is lame. Okay, let me just see if I can pull up the banner. I've never had this happen before, and it literally will not let me switch. Wow.
You're on the wrong channel?
No, I'm on the right channel. It won't let me switch. So in StreamYard, you have like multiple layouts, and it literally will not let me switch to the right one.
Okay.
Bizarre. I've never had that happen before. Okay. Well, while I'm trying to sort that out, here we go. Okay, we at least got the intro working, so there was that. All right, I'm Chris, host of CrashCanon, and I'm looking like an amateur today. Who do I have here for a guest? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Caleb. My YouTube and X account are ANewCrusade. I usually talk with people or just talk in general about politics, kind of political philosophy, and then I guess men's issues. That makes it sound gay, but I guess inevitably that's what we end up talking about in a not gay way, or at least I don't think it is. I think it's fun. And just hang out with friends, talk with people. Basically, any guy who has something productive to say, I'm willing to talk with him. But then for my specific special interest, I really like political philosophy. So anyone I can get on talking about that kind of stuff, I also really enjoy.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. That is what I've noticed you being very good at, is grabbing people who match with a philosophy that matches what you're already kind of talking about. You've done stuff with like people that are into fashion, or people that are into Catholicism, like Majorian and Anthony and John and all those guys. And then other people that we've both interviewed, like I believe, yeah, you did your interview with Bug Hall. You had Anthony on for a little while talking about work and how to be a man. And so we've had quite a bit of crossover, actually. And we even did that, what was it, the quiz show with Anthony for a little while that one day. And here we go, my backdrop. This is not the one I want, but we'll go with it for now. So there's a lot of crossover there, but why don't you tell everybody about kind of your journey to Catholicism? Because you're a convert, correct?
Yeah, I was baptized last December.
That's kind of an odd time. Oh, baptized. Okay, baptized.
Yeah, I was baptized last December. Well, I was everything last December because I'm Byzantine. So
really?
I got all 3 months.
That's actually something I wanted to talk to you about, because it's like Byzantine does things a little different.
Yeah. Hello to Jorge, by the way. My friend Jorge's in the chat, so I want to. Anytime I see him, I always shout him out. Everyone pray for his mom. His mom's very sick right now.
Oh man, even my like comments are coming up weird. What the heck happened today? I'm gonna have to complain to StreamYard about how my layouts got broken.
I'm a 7-year subscriber, and then you're gonna complain, and they're gonna look and go, "Well, you're on the discounted plan anyway, so we're not gonna help you."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. They'll probably be like, "Nah, forget you. You need to start paying more money."
But so I grew up Protestant. Like, I guess evangelical feels wrong, because the fact that I never had a label probably means that I really wasn't evangelical, but I never had like a label. But even in a lot of the really dumb ways that a lot of low church Protestants will be like, or like evangelicals, what do they call them? Baptist-costals, the way that they'll be like, but are you saved? But are you saved? Like,
yeah,
we weren't even like that. We were just weirdly laid back, yet kind of strict at the same time. Like, there was a lot of things my mom wouldn't let me do, but like it was never. A lot of people talk about having like kind of growing up and having everything be like, oh, this was so terrible, they forced all this stuff on me. Maybe it was just because I always liked being Christian. I always liked going to church, all that kind of stuff. So I never really viewed it negatively. But part of the way through my life, we switched from what's called Calvary Chapel, which is a non-denominational Protestant sect, which is more on like the Baptist side. And we switched from that to like an explicit non-denominational evangelical church. And when I was in high school, and I got super involved. I did a lot of this stuff for like the youth group, all that kind of stuff. And then I ended up moving away after I finished university, and I was living on my own for the first time, and it was really hard to find somewhere to go to church. And around that time, I watched a debate between Trent Horn and Gavin Ortland on Sola Scriptura. And
I saw that one. That's a good one,
yeah,
actually.
yeah, it is a really good one. Yeah, I would, anyone who wants to hear a good handling of that, I would recommend that. And that one is better than like any of the ones with James White, because I don't think James White, he's relatively good faith. Like, he's not a bad person, but he's not really a good faith interlocutor. He kind of just, he has like a script and he doesn't really go off of it, you know?
He likes to rehash old debates a lot, specifically
Yeah.
one in particular where he thinks he really won that one. So
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
And so because of that, I think that for anyone watching, you get a better debate experience watching the Gavin Ortland one. But I had fun. The reason why that popped up on my feed was because when I was in college, I was working at a skate shop, and there was a kid who had come back. He was Catholic. He had done like the net ministries, like the charismatic summer camp style stuff.
Oh
And
yeah, those are interesting.
yeah, at the time I didn't know anything about it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go and do that, of course, but more power to him. He came back and he was super, super into Catholicism, and he basically took it upon himself to try to convert every single person who worked at this skate shop. And so,
sometimes that works well and sometimes it doesn't.
he tried. He didn't ruin any relationships, but I will say for someone who was dealing with like 50% degenerates and 50% Protestants who all went to the same church as me, he had his work cut out for him. But
have you ever heard of Tim Pool's discussion on Jesus and skaters?
No.
It's actually really interesting. He like happened to be hanging out with some professional skaters in Chicago, and they just happened to have a picture of Jesus in like their hangout room. And Tim Pool, of course, wants to rag on Jesus as a young 18-year-old kid, whatever. And the guy says, "Oh no, I just think he's a great guy who's, preaching good things to people and walking around the world making friends." Is like, and I was like, well, that's a simple way to kind of draw people in, And it's funny how people just want to immediately go into deep theology, and the second they start talking, he's like, that is not the way to grab somebody who has zero attention on Christianity. Sometimes you got to take that more simplified approach and then take them deeper as you go, right? Usually when you're on fire for the faith, I feel like people immediately go hard on and that can be a problem, or it can work depending on who you're talking to. But for the most part, that doesn't work right away. So did that skate shop actually take that well, or do you think that was kind of not a good approach?
I think he just didn't know what he was doing well enough. And this is what I noticed I did right when I converted. You learn like all these big words for the first time and like these like kind of pop apologetics arguments and stuff.
Yeah.
And then like you just like lock and load and start shooting them wildly. And there's no nuance. There's no the N-word right there, nuance. There's there's no discernment kind of in what your approach should be, which is one of the reasons why people say that converts shouldn't engage in apologetics, which I think is very smart.
Yeah.
And so, and especially for me, I was coming from a super low church background. And so my thought process was literally like, anyone who's a Christian is cool with me. And if you want to do more than me, that's fine. Like, good on you. And I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. And so it was like so free flowing, like laying on your back on a surfboard in the ocean. And I was just like, like, you want to go get that wave? Like, good for you, man. And so
that can be spiritually edifying to do those kinds of things.
It wasn't. It made me very lazy. I mean, for some people who might need that, but for me, my baseline status and mode of existence is laziness. So for me, that was really bad. But he had told me, you need to watch this video on Sola Scriptura, and he sent me a Matt Fradd video. And this was like 2 or 3 years before I converted.
Okay.
And I watched it, and I was like, well, this video is not convincing, but I like this Australian guy. So I think I subscribed to his channel, or maybe I just kept seeing his videos pop up and kept watching them. And about 2 to 3 years ago was right when Matt started getting a lot of really interesting people. That was when he was really kind of like reaching a peak,
He was kind of more wide open back then. I feel like a lot of his guests feel a little less, like, more filtered, I guess what I would say.
Yeah, I think he was talking to a lot more people. And I also think that's right when like Steubenville was exploding. And now Matt's left there, you know, like a year into me watching, he like opened the cigar lounge and like a bunch of stuff was happening. Like I think like the St. Paul Center stuff was like taking off and all the all like just everything was happening right then, right when I was started to watch it. And so it was through Pints with Aquinas is why Trent Horn's video had popped up in my feed.
Which
So
does line up pretty well with the content. You get like Pints of Aquinas, and then your filter, and YouTube's like, okay, people who watch Pints of Aquinas, they like Trent Horn, they like Joe Heschmeyer. You know, it's like all of the Catholic Answers crew. It's kind of funny how that all works. It's like YouTube knows these people will watch these people, and then like the algorithm can either send you on a spiral of non-Catholics or it can send you on a spiral into Catholicism. It's kind of wild.
Well, and I think that's why it's good. You know, I have some complaints with the more mainstream guys who won't platform as many Catholics. Like they'll platform a lot of non-Catholics, you know. But one of the advantages, especially from Matt Fradd, because he's explicitly like the guy with the show, you know, is that when he does bring people in, because I think one of the things he's good about in general is kind of not compromising on his Catholicity. You know, he's not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, you know, maybe purgatory is just an instantaneous process. You know, like he kind of sticks with his guns in general, not all the time. And so
when he's knowledgeable, usually he does not allow somebody to push back on him.
Well, and he's good enough that he has, and he says all the time that he's not an expert and stuff. And, you know, he's good at a few things, but he's good enough to where anyone who were to like bring up a problem with what he believes, he can give a satisfactory response, you know, on most things. And so I had watched that, and then I was like, okay, well, Sola Scriptura is ridiculous. I can't believe in this. So yeah, beanies for Sede Picante. He should wear a beanie right now too.
I would love it. I would love to see Sede Picante because his hats are always ridiculous like that.
Oh yeah,
I saw one where he came on with a giant captain's hat or something, or maybe it was
his Napoleon hat.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's nuts. Anyways, thank you for showing up, Sede Picante. Maybe we can make you less Sede, more Picante.
Yeah, right. There we go. But 1 second. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I believe in? Am I going to believe in, or am I going to become Catholic or Orthodox? You know, like I still want to be Christian, obviously. And so I started watching videos.
You mean Lorelage didn't convince you to be Anglo-Catholic?
Yeah, that's gay. I'm not going to do that.
I'm just kidding.
Ever since I decided, my thought process has basically been like, if I'm going to make the change, I might as well be like, because politically, my thought has always been like, I want to be the most extreme thing possible because that's the most consistent thing possible.
Right.
And back in the day when I was just out of pure ignorance, you know, I thought that was Ben Shapiro when I was 16 years old, of course. But like, you know, I've since come to more understandings. And same thing with religiously. When I decided to convert, I was like, okay, well, whatever I'm going to become, yeah, I'm not going to go like half-ass it and be Anglo-Catholic. Like that's just silly, you know. I'm not, my process was not, a lot of people, they're incremental. They'll go from being evangelical and they'll become Reformed and they'll become Anglo-Catholic and they'll become a Novus Ordo Catholic and then they'll become Orthodox and then they'll come back and become a Catholic again, you know? And so it's like, and so
sometimes it is like a more iterative process like that. And I'm fine with people doing that, but I'm glad you just took the full head approach here.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's very, very personal. Like it's a very, you know, there's certain things they hold on to. And I think that my foundation being so loose and kind of floating around, it made it really easy for me to be like, time to be serious. I'm not hooked on anything. There's nothing where I'm like, oh my goodness, like Mary was assumed into heaven. That makes no sense. Like there was almost none of those doctrines that were hard for me to get over.
Well, that's good because a lot of people have a hard time with those.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people where they're like, or I've heard stories and some people will be like, you know, like these things still just don't make sense to me, but I'm just going to like start moving forward, which I actually think is a good approach to have, you know. I think a lot of friends
that are in that same boat right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the knowledge stuff will get, if you can find a good priest to give you your catechism classes or to give you one-on-one catechesis, I think that you can iron out a lot of that stuff because they're way smarter than you're going to be able to self-research. They'll explain it way better than you can, you know? And so, But
let me just say, if you're gonna go and have this deep conversation with your priest, bring whiskey.
Yeah, invite him over for dinner and say, I'll make you dinner. You just need to explain some stuff to me.
Yeah, I want to know more about this faith thing going on here.
Yeah. And so I was deciding between Orthodox and Catholic, and a little bit into it, I found Jay Dyer. And for someone who has pretty much only been watching Trent Horn and Pints with Aquinas, Jay Dyer is kind of like a nuke. It's like, whoa, what is going on here? So I was like, dude, what am I gonna do? Like,
he's also like super fast and like boom, 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 boom.
Oh yeah, just like gish galloping and just
a
total deluge of information, right? And so I was like, oh goodness gracious. So I'm like, okay, I need to wait. And so I was gonna move home at the end of the year, and so I was like, I'm just gonna wait till the end of the year. I'm not gonna make any decisions. And I kept listening to stuff. And ultimately, a lot of the stuff Jay Dyer said, I couldn't really find an answer to. But I also really, really like the Orthodox aesthetics, obviously, or the Eastern aesthetics. Obviously, I have all my icons behind me. And so
by Eastern, you mean Catholic?
Well, now it's Eastern Catholic, but at the time I thought of it as Orthodox.
Well, I mean, but a lot of the Eastern Orthodox stuff is very Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't get past the arguments on the papacy. The papacy arguments made so much sense to me, and the Orthodox ecclesiology did not make sense to me. Like the fact that depending on who my bishop was would determine whether or not I needed to be baptized again or not. I was like, dude, that just makes no sense to me. Like, yeah. I mean, I understand how conditional baptism works, but like, that's not what a lot of them mean. A lot of them are not saying we're going to conditionally baptize you. A lot of them are just saying, your entire sect is invalid, obviously. And so I decided to become Catholic, and I moved home. And right after I moved home, I heard arguments from Christian Wagner kind of debunking the Orthodox stuff. There's really a shortage of information on them. At least it's not from people who are as popular. So there's not as much good stuff on it. I mean, Eric Ibarra is probably the most famous guy who has anti-Orthodox polemics. But
actually, did you see? I had a guest on a while back. It's actually Enoch's brother.
Yeah, Elijah Yassi.
Yeah, he's awesome. Like, if you're looking for the papal minimalist position, that will probably at least open the door for a lot of the Orthodox church to come to be Catholic. That's a great place to start with, is his content, because he does a very good job both dialoguing and debating with Orthodox online. But Eric Ibarra is great too. Then there's like what is it? Patristic Pillars is another one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's William Albrecht. And then like there's a bunch of them, but those guys are awesome.
Yeah. And I think I had mainly just seen Eric
and Christian Wagner. I agree, he's awesome too. Sorry, I meant to say that.
His stuff is good because Orthodox online just basically say like Thomism is stupid all the time and then never address it. And so hearing like a really strong Thomistic argument or refutation from him is nice, or was nice. And so I was like, okay, I felt kind of confident in becoming Catholic. So I when I was living up north where I was living, I had
that's for those that can't read on the screen. If you're on the audio version, Sede Picante wrote, "Beanies are NFP for hats." Totally. Just, all right, yeah, we got Wagner as a fellow North Carolina enjoyer, so there's that. All right, let's keep going.
And so when I had lived up north, there was a Catholic church really close to me where I was living. So I would walk on Sundays and go to it. And it was a horrendous Novus Ordo. One of the homilies that the priest there gave, he was an African priest, was, I mean, like, to be charitable, this might not have been what he meant, but my takeaway was the only thing that matters is how you treat the poor. Because when Jesus says, like, how you treat the poor is how you treat me, I don't know exactly what he says. And his takeaway was basically like, nothing else matters except for how you treat the poor. And I was just like, yeah, that's crazy, bro. And so so when I got home, I went to a Latin mass at a SSPX near me. And I guess that place only has low masses. And so I was like, I don't really know what's going on here. Why is it silent for an hour? Like, it's just nothing's happening. And I was like, what is going on? This is not, when you hear like Michael Knowles like talking about the the Latin Mass or you see the Mass of the Ages stuff, you're like, I was like, this is not what was being described to me. So then I went to Novus Ordo, and that was terrible. You know, female altar boys and all that kind of stuff. And then I went to the Eastern Church, and the Eastern Church by me is actually really, really poor. But the only nice thing that they have is a really nice iconostasis. And so I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. And so I decided to stick there. And I found out like a month after I started catechesis that there was a different SSPX, or not a different TLM parish 5 minutes further away. And I was like, oh, I could have gone there, but it's too late. So now I'm Byzantine.
Well, you know, Byzantine is Catholic.
Yep, it works.
And technically, you can receive communion anywhere. You need to receive your actual sacraments, like marriage and whatnot, through the Byzantine Church, right? That's really the only difference as far as like what you're allowed to do.
Yeah, and it would be easier for me, like, you know, if I moved somewhere where there wasn't a Byzantine and I wanted to maintain my canonical status and I were to get married, it would probably be pretty easy for me to get a dispensation since we're the little guys. You know, if you for some reason wanted to go to a Byzantine church, it'd be a lot more difficult for you to get the pastor to let you do that, you know.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
So was there anything in your so you did your catechesis through the Byzantine Catholic Church, right? I actually haven't heard many people doing that in their conversion process. What was that like?
It's a really small church. There's like 30 people. And so and the average age, not including myself and my fiance, is probably like 55 years old. And so it was just me and the priest, and he's actually a retired priest, but
there's probably not many Byzantines in the area.
You know, actually, there are like 3 or 4 Byzantine churches within like an hour or 2 hours of me. Not even including, there's other Eastern churches like Maronites and stuff like that nearby too. But we share a pastor with a different parish, and so the priest who gives the Sunday liturgy, or who says the Sunday liturgy, he's a retired priest, and he only does that because he lives there. He lives in the rectory. So like, I think as part of living there, he does that for us. And so he did the catechesis for me. It was one-on-one. We like worked through a book and then some extra supplementary materials. It took about 9 months, which I think is on the medium to shorter end. I'm not exactly sure, but you know, it was just he and I. So we moved through it pretty quickly.
Nice. And so at the end of it, when you do it through the Eastern rite, you do all of it at once?
Yeah, everything at once.
They won't even baptize you at the beginning. You have to wait till the end?
Yeah, you just get baptized, you get communed and chrismated all at once. It was like 2 hours, and it was just me. I was the only one. I was the first adult baptism in like 10 years at that parish.
Neat. I mean, I'm sure that was a big deal for them. They probably don't see it that often then.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. The sister parish is bigger and it's in a nicer area. And but the one I go to is in an area that used to historically have a lot of steelwork, which is what the Byzantines are known for doing. And it's when the steel mills left, they all left with them. And so there's just a few ethnics. It's like the children of the steel workers who got jobs in that area still attend there. And then obviously all of those people were boomers, so they were being born, and like most of them apostatized, so there's none of them left. And then a bunch of Mexicans, because there's a ton of Mexicans in that area. So it is like the most stereotypical like Mexican bizlarper church, because the surrounding area is like 90% Mexican probably. And so all of the people who are scandalized by how bad the local Novus Ordos are will just go there for something more serious. So there's like little Mexican old ladies who like love Father Ripperger, and they're attending this Byzantine church, and they're Mexican. It's really funny.
You know, the boomers that actually take their faith seriously, especially the men, a lot of them that I've talked to talk about Father Ripperger. It's funny. Like, for example, like my father-in-law likes Father Ripperger. He listens to him quite a bit. He's the one that actually showed me Father Ripperger in the first place before I was really interested in my Catholicism, which a lot of my regression occurred like around the time I got married through 2020 was when a lot of my regression into, like, I say reversion. My reversion to the church occurred significantly during that time period, which was good because I'm glad I did that well before I started a podcast about my Catholicism, because as a revert, my catechesis was very poor growing up.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody coming in as an adult, eyes wide open, who wants to be Catholic, I feel like you have a better opportunity to learn when you're in that state. Now, what would you say I'm assuming you've been to Novus Ordos and Latin Masses at least once, right?
Yeah, I've been to a handful of visiting churches, a handful of Novus Ordos, and like 3 or 4 TLMs, and then some other Eastern stuff like the Maronites and that kind of stuff.
Now, was it hard to go between them? Like, did you have a difficulty, especially with the Latin Mass, or do you feel like it was pretty comparable, just language differences?
Everything was so foreign that it all just felt equally foreign, but it was just different, And so it's like, I don't know. It's like if you're one of those like chicken nugget and cheese quesadilla kids, like what difference is like, Lebanese food versus Korean food versus Russian food? Like to you, it's all just weird, right? And so like that's kind of how it was for me. Like, I grew up like singing normal like radio pop Protestant songs at church, and so like all of it felt weird. But the Novus Ordo feels kitschy and lame, and the Byzantine feels weird, and then the Latin Mass just feels epic, obviously. And then the Low Mass for a convert, at least for me, for someone who didn't have it explained to them, was really, really weird. And so I kind of for a while, like even when I started going to the Byzantine church, which is in the vernacular, I kind of for like a month or two just didn't even try to follow along like in the missal. I just kind of
experienced it,
listened and experienced it, and right around the time I started my catechism classes, which was like 2 months in, was when I started really looking at the missal and trying to learn it. And now it's been about a year, and I know I don't need to read it now. But I don't know the Novus Ordo, and so there's no familiarity for me there. I maintain my dislike of it, and and same thing with the Latin Mass. So I don't understand it either, but I still just let it. I do the same thing. I just sit there and let it wash over me. So I still really, really like the Latin Mass.
So the only defense I'll give to the Novus Ordo, and I won't give a lot, is that if you have a priest who likes the Latin Mass, they will not allow the Novus Ordo to be irreverent like some priests will, especially the boomer priests. Although there are some good boomer priests. I've met a couple. But the younger priests who are like begging to say the Latin Mass, when they do the Novus Ordo, those guys do a really good job. I've always been very impressed with younger priests, especially younger priests who came through during Summorum Pontificum. Those priests want the Latin Mass so bad, but they can't have it because their bishops are not allowing them to do it. So they do a very reverent, usually ad orientem, although our bishop just banned that Novus Ordo, and it's very beautiful when they do it that way. So
are you in the?
That's my only defense. I am. I've made this comment before. What was that?
You said, dude, that sucks.
Yeah. I've heard it all over before. I'm just praying that the Archbishop will have a change of heart on some of these things, or maybe Rome will get involved, one or the other. I do feel bad for people like Ralph Martin, who got removed from their tenured position at the university, the seminary, Sacred Heart Seminary, because he was, I have some issues with his charismatic thought process, but I think overall he's a very good teacher, and a lot of the people I've talked to thought he was very good. So I do feel bad for him in that situation. So pray for Ralph Martin as well.
I haven't heard a lot of good things about him from people I respect. But when his boss, essentially, which is who the bishop is, right, is doing a bunch of stuff that's suspicious, and then also adds in firing him, it definitely makes me sympathetic.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Majorian just said, it's better than replacing him with like some giant liberal. I'm sure I'd get along better with Ralph Martin than I would with like Mike Lewis, So.
Oh no, I know I would get along with Ralph Martin. I question some of his past choices and the charismatic movement in general, but
oh yeah, 100%.
That's more of a me thing than a issue, I guess. His opinions that I've heard him spout online, other than related to the charismatic movement, are very orthodox. I mean, I really don't have a lot of complaints about what Ralph Martin has actually said online. It's more about his involvement in the charismatic movement that I question.
Yeah, me too.
But so long as Rome doesn't have an actual like ban on the charismatic movement, that's as far as I'll go with that opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it kind of was a little bit beneficial that I ended up being Byzantine, because funnily enough, I didn't know at the time, but our bishop in the area where I live is famously, for lack of a better, more charitable way to say it, pretty terrible. He has a really, really bad reputation, I guess. And so, like, I think the oldest church that used to be the cathedral in the diocese, in a city, in a large city that is like 70 or 80% Hispanic, can't pay its bills.
Oh,
Like,
geez.
like how? It's like it used to be the cathedral. It's beautiful. It's old. It's in a central location. I mean, granted, like, because it's 70% Hispanic or 80% Hispanic, it's not a nice town, obviously, but it's it just blows my mind. And so it's, there are other places 1 or 2 dioceses away that take care of themselves and that can afford stuff, and where everything works out. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that for a lot of people, like, just having a bishop who doesn't attack them is like what it takes to be a good bishop,
I mean,
You're
look,
like, oh, God bless us with a bishop who lets us worship the way we want,
actually, it's funny you asked that, because I kept hoping for the longest time that we'd get to keep Vigneron for another 5-10 years, because Archbishop Vigneron was one of those, like, if it's good for the flock, it's good for me as the bishop. And he just kind of let things continue to work themselves out within the diocese, and that's how we wound up with so many Latin masses in the Metro Detroit area. And then come to find out, he had like a letter to Pope Francis basically saying, like, this has been very fruitful for our diocese, please allow it to continue, essentially, when right before Traditionis Custodes came out. So it's like, it sounds like he was very supportive of the more traditional movement in the Archdiocese of Detroit, whereas the new bishop does not appear to be as happy with the traditional movement in the Archdiocese of Detroit. Now, there was some other stuff going on with Vigneron. Like, for example, he forced Michael Voris to change the name of their YouTube channel. Although, again, remember, Voris was very critical of Vigneron at a time when nobody else was, which is kind of weird. I don't really know what was going on with that. But you do have to ask your bishop permission to put Catholic in the title of your companies. And Voris was in the Archdiocese of Detroit, and he made the bishop mad, and the bishop took it away. So that is something we all need to keep in mind, is like, we need to owe some obedience to our bishops. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of the current archbishop, I do obey at least the commands which are applicable to myself.
Yeah. It's disappointing. I really don't. I mean, man, if I was stuck with, I don't know, there's just so much. One of the biggest things, I mean, I think I'm sympathetic to the idea that the Novus Ordo is not bad in and of itself, but like, is that the TLM is just better, in any, like, the best TLM is just always better than the best Novus Ordo. And
I tend to hold that same opinion, at least in terms of reverence and worship. There's just more there. So, like, even if you're not doing the best job, you're doing more.
Well, and I just think that the issue is that, but it is, like you're saying, like, the least you could do is just not be scandalizing, like, not have terrible music, not, like, not like have people kneel to receive. Like, those are easy things, almost. You could probably get, if the USCCB made it like a crusade, they could probably get 80% of Catholics, 90% of American Catholics kneeling for communion if they really pushed it hard, like, in a certain amount of years or whatever, if they did like some type of Stalin 5-year plan, they could really knock it out, I think.
Did you say Stalin?
Yeah, like a 5-year plan.
Did you know that a few years back, the USCCB had a list of music that they said this music is no longer allowed at Mass because it's considered scandalous to the laity, and it might even be sacrilegious. I think the "This is the city of God" or whatever, "Let us build" or something like that. The "Building the City of God," whatever the lyrics are, that was on the list. I think "Lord of the Dance" was on the list, stuff like that. And it was like, good. Finally, we've got some bishops and USCCB trying to clean up the music list. And then they like backpedaled quickly because all the boomers complain.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, all the Novus, I'm yet to go to a Novus Ordo that isn't like, like an overweight boomer or millennial lady strumming a guitar, like singing every single note with vibrato, of 70s hymns. I've just never been to a good one. I really want to go the Norbertines in Orange County, who converted Bug Hall and who are famously traditional. You know, they have that really popular YouTube channel and everything. I'd eventually like to make my way all the way out to their abbey, and I would prefer to go to the Latin Mass there. But, you know, if I can't make it there, I've heard that they do just about the best Novus Ordo you can go to in Southern California. But I'd prefer to avoid, I mean, you know, I'll go to a TLM anytime I can.
Cardinal Supich played Wade in the Water in a mariachi. Oh, that, yeah, I heard about that. That was bad. A couple people I know were going to attend that, and they were like, they realized what the music was going to be when they looked at the sheets that were being passed out, and they're like, never mind. I'm just not going to do this. Because if I'm going to go to the Pope's Mass, I want it to be reverent. Because, I mean, really, Pope Leo's Mass himself, they're all very reverent. They might be the Novus Ordo, but they're extremely reverent. You've got like very Gregorian chant-oriented things going on. I mean, Pope Leo nails it. It's really awesome. I love hearing him chant. Like, I'm like hearing a Pope actually chant in Latin and enjoy. You can tell he likes it because he wouldn't keep doing it if he didn't.
Yeah.
It feels good. It feels right. It feels reverent. It's awesome to see that. And then I look and I see, you know, people over here in the United States, and I'm like, why can't we have, even if you're going to do the Novus Ordo, and like I said, the Novus Ordo is valid. Let's do it reverently. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do the Novus Ordo, let's do it as reverently as possible. Let's use Eucharistic, what is it? Eucharistic Prayer 1 is the long one. Pretty sure it's Roman canon. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it's a lot of it is like the Novus Ordo. There are a few people who basically just admit, like, yeah, it's worse, but it's what I go to. Or, you know, there's some people who are completely honest about it. But most people, even, they Mott and Bailey it, and they say, you know, well, it can be good, it can be this. But then you see people all the time defending all the most terrible things about it. You know, receiving
I won't do that.
And there's tons of people who defend it. And, you know, I'm not going to sit there and, like, you know, if you're the person who doesn't defend receiving in the hand, but defends this and that, like, obviously you're criticizing a group of people. So, but in general, out of the pro Novus Ordo people, it really, like, there's this, oh, well, it's actually all just fine and you can't critique any of it. And then they fall back and like, oh, well, you know, well, I do this, or, you know, oh, well, it should be really ideally like this. And it's just like, realistically, most people are not going somewhere nice. I don't want my whole thing to just be attacking the Novus Ordo, because, you know, I can't do it very well. So I don't want to make that position look bad.
No, that's fine. I'm not trying to attack or defend either way. I just know when a Mass is reverent, I feel more like I'm worshiping God.
Yeah, 100%.
And I have yet to attend a Latin Mass that felt irreverent.
Yeah. Well, and I was really disappointed. You know, I had driven up to the mission with
That's not true. I've seen some very good Novus Ordos, but if you took the best Latin Mass and the best Novus Ordo, the best Latin Mass will just eat it will win. Let's put it that way. Like it will have more reverence. It will have more reverent music, and you won't see anybody doing anything weird there. People will be dressed to the nines. So even like if you had to take the best and the best, like I'm going to go to say the TLM is a better version of worship, albeit both are valid. That's how I would describe it. Valid and reverent are not the same thing. And I've yet to hear anybody defend that they are. But as long as you're fulfilling your Sunday obligation, you are not committing mortal sin.
Yeah. Oh man, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say
Sede Picante, I would love to interview you sometime about your music ministry. But you're gonna have to get in line because one of my best friends is a music minister, and I plan to interview him about the worst music in the Novus Ordo. That'll be a fun podcast. Maybe I'll have you on as well, and we can all rank them together. That's all I'm gonna say. But Sede Picante, you got me intrigued. I'm interested. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to keep talking negatively about it. That's all I'll say, I guess.
Well, I mean, we got a Bizlarper here, and we're talking about the Novus Ordo. So what the heck?
Well, I'm very anti-Novus Ordo. So, you know, like, I'm not going to say I'm not anti, I'm not pro. I genuinely, I will at all costs, with the exception of missing my Sunday obligation, I will avoid it, you know. So that's just me. Whatever. If you don't like that, you can go to church wherever you want to go to church. And, you know, I will make the sacrifices that I have to do to make that happen.
Unfortunately for me, there are only 4 TLMs in the entire Archdiocese of Detroit. and the closest one for me is during my children's nap time.
That's rough.
Yes. I used to have a couple options, or I could go on Thursday nights when I decided to go, because we had a Thursday night Latin Mass right by me, and that was pretty great. But I'm, like I said, 90% of these young priests, they want to say the TLM, and they're just not allowed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So it's what's hard is if you don't support these young priests, I mean, they're gonna fall into like a more lax thought process, because if nobody's attending their masses, it's gonna suck for them, you know.
Yeah,
I want to support the young priests who want to say the Latin Mass, or even if they're just willing to do a reverent Mass, because they're the future. The boomers who are currently like banning the Latin Mass, they're not the future.
Well, they're literally just all going to die in the next 20 years.
Eventually, they will all be gone.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be left with the young priests that are there right now.
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. I was really disappointed. I had gone to one of the California mission churches, and they had the Capuchin Franciscans or whatever that they were the ones who converted Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was going to that church, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be at this beautiful historic church. There's going to be like this order there. And I show up, and it's in the side hall, and it's not even in like a side chapel. It was literally, it looked like a elementary school cafeteria. Like it was some event room, multi-purpose room attached to the church. They were remodeling the main sanctuary, so I couldn't even go in there. And then it was a diocesan priest doing the Mass, an Irish priest. And while he seemed very, very kind, we like sang happy birthday during the Mass and stuff. And same thing, we were like strumming the guitar and stuff. That was a huge disappointment. And I think one of the really big issues that a lot of people don't realize is, one, a lot of people don't realize they just have terrible taste, and they don't understand, not like to be douchey, but they don't understand like art or have a standard, like they don't have an understanding of what's actually beautiful. Just like how some people like to eat, like Velveeta mac and cheese or whatever, like.
As I have 3 boxes in the back of my basement here.
Yeah. And so
no one eats it in my house anymore. There was like a brief period of time where the kids liked it, and now they don't.
Yeah, that's rough. Good for them, honestly. It's probably healthier.
Oh, it definitely is.
I think that what I've really noticed, especially with my fiance, because she doesn't, when I decided to convert, she had no interest in converting, but she comes with me every single week, is that the reality of what's happening is way more apparent at the Latin Mass and at the Byzantine Mass. The reason why, she and I were living our lives a certain way, and I said, we have to make these changes. At least she can see why I'm making the changes, even if she's like, well, I don't know, I'm not ready, whatever reasons there are, you bring family members or whatever. Oh man, you're not eating meat on Fridays. Why? And then you go there and you're like, oh, well, whatever he's doing, he's serious about it. Like if he's going to this is impressive, like being a part of this church means the Latin Mass. This is impressive. That's why he's doing these things. I don't think that a lot of the church, that a lot of people are, unfortunately, their only option does not properly communicate the reality of what the Catholic Church is. When you sit here and hear saint stories, like all these people going through torture and all these terrible, rough lives, and you're like, oh man, yeah, they did it to sing On Eagle's Wings on Sunday. Like, no, they didn't.
Meanwhile, I don't remember what Mass it was, they were playing On Eagle's Wings, and there's Biden crying in the highlight reel. And I'm like, can we get more cringe than this? Is it possible?
Yeah. But
no,
I'll leave it at that. I think that properly kind of shows why I feel that way. I have other reasons too, but I don't want to have 45 minutes of me hating on stuff. That's kind of lame.
That's fine. I mean, when I was growing up, it was basically like, I was catechized in the Novus Ordo, and basically the idea that anybody could take it on the tongue wasn't even conveyed to me in my catechism.
Like that it was an option?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it was, they were like, some people do this, but most people don't. And like, that was the whole catechism on it. And then slowly what happened to me was, like, for example, there was a guy named, he goes by the name Modern Papist on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They did like a statistic thing on how much of the Eucharist hosts, like they took on non-consecrated hosts and did like, I don't know, several of like 100 or something like that. And they had like a blackboard underneath it in the hand. and they
The
saw
particles
how many particles dropped, right?
Mhm.
And then they did it on the tongue, same idea, and the amount on the hand versus the tongue was significantly different. So that convinced me on the tongue was correct. And then a different priest did a video where he's like, if we want more priests, regardless of what mass you attend, we need to show reverence for the Eucharist. And that's when I started kneeling.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a process for me. I was like, okay, I switched to doing it only on the tongue. And then now, no matter where I go, I kneel. And if a priest gives me crap for it, it is what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's good because it's gonna. The priests who get bothered by it need to get bothered by it, because
Agreed.
them getting bothered, I think in reality is probably just them being convicted and knowing that what they're doing is wrong. And like you said, the young ones who need to be supported, it is a kind of, you can crypto support them, be like, yeah, I'm with you, man, by doing that. Or it at least shows them, they can get a lay of who is serious about what's going on, who is, who they can trust, let them know that you're kind of there for them, I guess. But yeah,
absolutely.
We don't kneel on Sundays in the Byzantine Rite just because that's not our tradition, but we receive through the spoon, so we have to receive in the mouth on the tongue. But anytime I go to a Latin church, I always kneel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
How you said it's all standing at the Byzantine? Is that correct?
Yeah, just the way our tradition works, on Sundays we don't kneel, so you kneel to receive every non-Sunday day.
Technically, on Easter, I think the tradition was not to kneel. Like I think even in the Latin church, there was a point where you're not supposed to kneel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was during communion or if it was during some other part of the mass that you normally kneel, but during Easter you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't surprise me at all that there would be a different tradition in the Eastern Church. So here we go. We have some interesting sightings of the Bible here. Matt 14:6-7. But on Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, and they all sang happy birthday. And then we have another one that says, so I had no idea happy birthday ended with a schizoid waterbender getting beheaded. Clearly talking about John the Baptist, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Then we got another 1 Corinthians here. Anyways, all you guys in the chat, I appreciate you. I just want you to know I am following the chat while I'm listening to our good friend here who's first time on the channel, but probably not the last time. At least I hope not. Unless this schizophrenic episode that I'm having here makes him not want to come back. Then maybe it is. I think it is too. No. Yeah. I have a bit of ADHD. I tend to interrupt a lot, and I apologize for that.
No, you're fine. No worries.
So you want to explain the icons behind you? I mean, I might know what they are, but I don't know if the audience all knows them.
I don't know which one this is, but obviously this is Our Lady and Jesus. And then, so this is from Legacy Icons. This one is like a piece of, it's like the print on top of the wood block, and they're really good quality. This just is from a pure looks perspective, and they're pretty decent price. They're just not my absolute favorite. Unfortunately, I think Rob from Avoiding Babylon wants me to burn this one because this is St. George, and I kept it plastic wrapped. This is from Monastery Icons. I guess supposedly these guys are heretical, but
wait, who is it from?
Monastery Icons, like I think they're like Buddhist or something, like they're owned by Buddhists or something.
Interesting.
Rob politely insinuated that I should probably like correctly get rid of it. But this was a Christmas present, so I haven't done that. And then I have a second St. George because I wrote my Christmas list very poorly. So I have a second St. George, and then obviously here the Christ icon.
Yeah.
And then I really want to get I want to get a St. Agnes icon, or maybe a statue. The Virgin who is killed, the martyr. My fiance really likes her, and then I want to get a Last Supper one when we get married for our dining room. I think that'd be cool.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that that first one you showed me, I think that's what Anthony was talking about. It says Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Is that Our Lady of Perpetual Help?
It might be. I honestly don't know. I've seen that icon a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But the last time I actually saw it, it's funny that you brought that one up. It's actually got the weirdest edit to it. And it was given by the Ukrainian president to Pope Francis, where they have basically Jesus, the child, like blacked out. It's just weird.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it always disturbed me that he decided to give that to the Pope. It made me think he wasn't a very good Christian, if he's even a Christian at all.
Yeah,
But
that's really weird.
yeah, that's when I found out about that icon. So I was like, what is this supposed to be?
Yeah, that's really weird. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to get like a hand painted one day, but dude, they're expensive.
Oh
Any
yeah.
nice art costs a lot of money. And I mean, I'm not gonna, if I'm gonna buy one from a monk or a nun or whatever, I mean, I want to support them. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna pay a real price. But yeah, getting a nice one it'll happen eventually. I'll get there.
So are you aware of there's a few different versions of like the Eastern Divine Office?
So I'm a terrible Catholic. I don't know. I one of the issues with my catechesis, and I'm sure everyone else has issues with their catechesis unless you were, catechized by a TLM priest, was that we only went over like theological stuff for the most part. So I know almost no like Catholic cultural, devotional, any of that type of stuff.
Have you done the prayer rope at least? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I know that. I know the rosary. And then I know that we have the divine office. There's like an app I have that has the Byzantine office on it, but I have never like gotten like looked into it.
Well, if you do decide ever to get into it, I would recommend you start with just morning prayer and evening prayer and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on what is actually in there. Especially if you do the new office. I do the old office. So mine's a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But the new office is pretty short. I mean, really, it's like a 10 to 15 minute commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course, if you do liturgy hours over the course of 4 weeks, you're going to pray all the Psalms, minus a few little tidbits they took out for delicate reasons, we'll say. Like there's a part of the Psalms that talks about actually like killing the babies of enemies and stuff, and they're like
Like the one where
maybe.
it's like we bash them on the rocks for you, and it's like
Yes.
that kind of goes hard though, but yeah, that's fair.
But there's actually like reasons why those were in there, and it's like whoever was putting together liturgy of the hours just like maybe not that. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, we really should just leave the Psalms alone. The Psalms are like the entire history of the church, even to the modern day, because you can pray them at any point that you're feeling the emotions of David in those Psalms, or like the history of it. Like there's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
Just even praying the Psalms on their own is like the oldest version of the office. That's what the original Benedict, who started the office for Catholics, at least the version we know today, started with him. Was just literally praying the Psalms. It wasn't the hymn. It wasn't everything else. Those are things that were added by natural progression of the office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I'm really bad at doing anything consistently. So my prayer life is terrible. Especially not with any one consistent thing. I go back and forth between stuff all the time. Maybe I need to try that out. I haven't tried praying the office.
Well, honestly, my favorite part of the office is just the fact that you become so acquainted with the Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain until you've gone through the Psalms a bunch of times, and then you're like, wow, okay, I'm really starting to understand what's going on here, and why is David so prominent in the prophecy related to Jesus. And the Psalms are a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because each Psalm predicts something or tells about something that will happen or has happened. It's just wild. Everybody should read the Psalms at least once a year. That's what I'll say about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's get past that now. All right, you are a Catholic now. What would you say are the biggest challenges for you as a Catholic in your life today?
I think that one of the things moving from like a lower church background is that like I represent something now, and like something that's real and like has an effect on people. And so like I can't be like super retarded about stuff because it's gonna reflect negatively on other people, Like I think that that's a big part of it. I've tried to really cut back on like my cursing and all that kind of stuff, just even if, I think that you can make pretty compelling arguments for cursing being perfectly fine in a lot of instances, but even just to not shed negative light on myself and other people and on the organization, which I now represent, especially since, in my life, I'm like the only Catholic. That's been a big change, for a lot of things that haven't really hit me yet. I'm not married, so like sitting there and worrying about how am I going to afford all these children because I'm not practicing contraception is not yet a problem. And so, like a lot of those things have been a lot of those difficulties, the difficulties of how do I raise my child to do all these things? Like a lot of those existential problems have not yet come up. And so I'm appreciating not having that responsibility right now. Although I should probably kind of be preparing myself for when that comes up a little bit better. I don't know. It's just been such a big change. Like it's all completely culturally foreign to me. And so it's been so much learning stuff, like what stuff is called and who's what and what you're supposed to do and how you behave and all this kind of stuff. Like I still don't, I mean, in my brain, I know that I'm Catholic, but I still don't really like feel it the way I see some people who just kind of know everything, So
you would say the biggest challenge is embracing what you've taken on?
Yeah, I think so. It's easy, especially when I'm no genius or anything, but I'm slightly smarter. And so it's like easy for me to sit there and reason through a lot of the problems. Yeah, I'm engaged. I'm getting married next month. And so a lot of it's easy for me to kind of deal with that. And like I said, I've never had to sit there and be like, oh, how do I make sense of this? How do I make sense of that? And even with a lot of the teachings, I try to kind of basically with everything except for tattoos, I kind of go on the most conservative a take for it. I'm kind of too far down the rabbit hole on tattoos.
I think as long as you're not tattooing yourself with just abhorrent things, you're probably okay.
That's what you're going to say, but I guarantee you that one of our friends here in the comments is going to let me know that you're wrong.
Well, I mean, really, what do you do with your temple, right?
Yeah.
Do you fill it with pagan idols, or do you fill it with like things that are edifying for your faith?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you're okay with iconography in your churches, you have to be okay with iconography on some people's bodies. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that most people should get tattoos, and I would not encourage most people to get tattoos, only because most people.
But I'm okay with it, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I just think most people have terrible taste. Like saying.
Oh no, his internet keeps going off on me. Here we go. Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. I think it was just temporary.
Yeah, you got cut out for like a solid probably 10 seconds there. So go back into your diatribe about tattoos. Let's hear it.
Oh, I was just saying that I think almost everyone has bad taste. And so just in general, nobody should get them. And the people who are going to not listen to me saying nobody should get them probably have good enough taste to not listen to me and just to get something that looks nice. But I just like most people get words, and words look terrible. Women get skinny crosses that look terrible, or tramp stamps, or they get Pura Vida and a wave tattooed on them or whatever, and it's all terrible. Almost nobody has a cool tattoo. And one of the things is that like Rob has one, and it's like I don't know what style it is, but he has one of like St. George. So like it's hard to mess up one that's St. George. Or like I have a friend, and her entire stomach is the Virgin Mary. Like almost like an icon. It's like photorealistic style, or like black and gray
stomach.
So like, yeah, it's like from like the waist up of the Virgin Mary, and then it's like an arc. So it's like that, and then it's like her like crying
on her stomach.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a UFC fighter. His name's Cheeto Vera. He has a placement right there too of one. It actually made me think about getting one there, or getting a tattoo there. But that would just hurt so bad. I've slowed down a lot on getting them because they're just so excruciatingly painful, especially because I have a tattoo, one image from the top of my shoulders to the bottom of my legs. It's one consistent image, and Antoni's seen it. And so because of that, I've been going really, really slow. It's extremely, extremely painful. You see what Majorian said?
I see what he said, yeah.
Yeah, Majorian's going to get a tramp stamp. That'll be cool. He should get Trent Horn's signature on his arm. That'd be cool. But
Oh man.
But in general, it hasn't been super hard for me to accept all those different teachings. It's just to accept, it's just to actually like do stuff. Like, yeah, I know I should do this. Yeah, I know I should do that. Yes, I can change my opinion on this. Like changing, oh, you can't hold this opinion. That's easy. Okay, I just won't hold that opinion then. But like praying every single day and reading the Bible and doing this and doing that and like just the things that any normal person, whether or not they're Catholic, would struggle with is hard. And then also just really feeling like I'm Catholic, is part of it as well.
I'm not sharing that one, Majorian. All right. The ones I've seen, actually, some of the ones that make a lot of sense are like electricians, right? So when they're doing work, you can't wear like a metal ring as an electrician to do work. So like they'll either get like the silicone ring, or I've seen people actually tattoo a ring around their ring finger. And it's like, well, okay, now you have a permanent ring. Nobody can take it off you. And it's a clear sign to other people that you are married and to leave you alone, especially this for the single people out there. And obviously definitely do not engage in adulterous behavior like that guy at the Coldplay concert. But don't go to Coldplay concerts. That's the lesson there. No. But I can see some reasons to get tattoos. And if you're going to get something like I don't have any, I'm just going to be honest. I don't have any. I've never had any want to get them. But I also grew up with people very close to me that had them and regretted parts of them immensely. So like immediately I was like, not for me. So I guess I had like the fair warning.
Yeah. One thing my grandma told me, which I thought was dumb when I first started getting them, and I've now found out to actually be true, and it might just be my friend group, to be fair, is that she said, everyone's going to have a tattoo and then you'll actually stand out by not having them. And I was like, oh, grandma, you're so silly. And like I said, it might just be my friends, because my friends are definitely disproportionately tattooed. Like my friends in real life, like a lot of them. And so because of that, but then I still feel okay, because when I see the masses, I go, well, even if we're both tattooed, at least mine are good and yours are bad. And so but I would say, if you want to be unique, don't get tattooed. Also, you should work out and you should look nice. And the better your body looks, the more tattoos will inhibit your body looking better. Like my left arm is tattooed and I have less muscle definition in it because of that. And so there's
really,
yeah, you can't tell as much. So like,
okay.
Like
okay.
Chris Bumstead, the bodybuilder, he has like a forearm tattoo and that's it. And he can't pull his sleeve the rest of the way up until he stops competing, because it'll just destroy the visual effect of his arm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. One of the funny things though is when you're really fat, actually, like that chef Matty Matheson, I actually think you can get away with looking a lot cooler when you're really fat if you have a bunch of tattoos. I think he looks pretty cool with them. But a lot of buff guys look worse. Majorian says he's not jacked enough for tattoos. So
actually, here's the thing. If a woman is going after men wearing rings, throw her to the streets. She should not be around you.
Yeah.
I joke about throwing her to the streets, but literally don't go near these women. If these women are going after married men, it can only hurt you to hang out with them.
Oh yeah, that's disgusting. That's nasty. I mean, I don't really see any reason to be hanging out with girls if you're married, unless you're related to them or they're married to one of your friends.
Exactly.
Like those are the three options, right?
Yes, I would agree with that statement in 99% of cases.
Yeah. Whatever, if you're at a big party or whatever and you're meeting someone or you're at work and unfortunately women work, and so that's just how it works. Like there are people who are like, I'm married and I went out to dinner with my friend who's a guy, and I'm like, that's disgusting and terrible. You shouldn't do that. That's not good.
Well, yeah, you should not do that probably. The other thing I was going to say about that is that if you have maybe I should rephrase this. If you have any issues that would be considered sinful behavior outside of marriage or inside of marriage, you should probably sort those things out on the path to your marriage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if people are I'll use the Gen Z term. If men are gooning, they should sort that out before they're trying to get engaged and married.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, and just with any of your things, I think that you owe it to your spouse to not like yeah, no talking to women at the gym. That's gross. Women shouldn't think that way. But they like in the same way that like you would owe it to them to not bring like an excessive amount of debt or like to bring shame on your name, right? Like if you're going to marry a woman, like to not like bring shame on her yourself and then her, like in any of those things, the way that you owe them, you owe your wife your virginity and all those type of things. Yeah, you owe chastity to them, and you owe anything. You shouldn't bring any of those sins upon yourself and then also her. And that's easier said than done. And unfortunately, in a lot of circumstances, I think if you're trying to be a Catholic and you're putting yourself out there, there is a certain level of scandal that is very, very likely to be brought upon the two of you. And at a certain point, it's almost like that's kind of just a risk you take. But like I'm certainly more on the controversial end of where I could be, optionally. And I've talked with her about that, and we've kind of navigated that. I stopped saying slurs online, all that kind of stuff. I'm
proud of you, Caleb.
Yeah, well, and I stopped cursing, a lot of that stuff. Occasionally some stuff slips through. I tend to stick to the stuff that can be excused occasionally, and so. But like a lot of that stuff, I just think that's a big thing for me. Like right now, is been trying to prepare for marriage and.
Oh no, Majorian started it. I got to break this chain before he starts the chain.
Get myself in a situation where I'm where I'm ready for that, and especially since I'm getting married relatively young. I'm not that old.
I forget. Like, are you the same age I was when I got married?
How old were you when you got married?
23.
Yeah. So I'm 23, and so but like I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do for work and all that kind of stuff, and how do I get my woman working as little as possible so that we don't neglect our children and all that kind of stuff in the future. I mean, assuming that God blesses us with them.
I'll tell you what, your priest could surprise you at your wedding with a homily about how many children you're going to be blessed with, because that was pretty wild.
That's what you had?
Yeah. So the priest that married us, shout out to that priest. He was really cool. He was a former banker who became a priest in the later years of his life, like in his 30s, 40s. Like woke up one day, was mowing the grass, and said, "You know what? I should be a priest." And it was like, okay, that's a calling, I'll say. Let's put it that way. But he had never mentioned this to us once. And then he goes up for the homily during our wedding, and he's like, I asked God to bless you with many children. And we were like, what?
That's awesome.
That was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But clearly we got 5 now. So like the blessing worked, I guess.
Man, still pretty young. So you got more time.
Yeah. We'll probably have some more.
Yeah. That's awesome.
God willing.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope God wouldn't put it on my heart to have a lot of kids if I'm not going to get at least a couple out of it. I think, in my opinion, I think 5, obviously there's lots of reasons why people don't have the amount of kids that they want. And so I just want to put it out there just because I know that I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, like, because that's the type of thing where I think it's valid to have some messed up feelings because it's really not your fault a lot of the time. But I do think in general, you should aim for at least 5. I think that 5 is enough to where you can inevitably get that screw up kid, and then you can still get 2 priests and 2 kids to continue your name out of it. And so, and that's something I really care a lot about, is passing my name on, because my great grandpa has my last name. My grandpa has my last name, and I'm a bastard. So I have my grandpa's last name and not my dad's. Right. And so, but coincidentally, I think it was a little bit of a blessing, because out of my grandpa's 6 children, or my great grandpa's 6 children, so in my grandpa's generation, and then probably 20 to 25 children in my mom's generation, and then probably 50 to, let's say 50, right, 40 to 50 kids in my generation. I'm the only man with my last name, and the only ones left who are of an age to have children are 100% not going to. And so from 4 generations back, I am the only chance that my family has to not die out. And so to me, that matters a lot. I was talking with my fiance's dad, my future father-in-law, and he only has one daughter. And so it's just not happening, you know? And I was kind of talking to him about that, and he's not super philosophical about stuff like that. So he's not sitting there and thinking about it, but you know, we talked about it and we're like, yeah, that it's not fun to know that's going to happen, you know? And so I want a priest and I want to continue my name. So I've got, I think 5 gives me where I'm really kind of shooting enough shots that I have a really good shot of kind of hitting the goal. But I pray that God at least blesses me with 5 children.
I've got 3 boys and 2 girls, and the second boy has already expressed potential to want for the priesthood. He's still young; he's only 6 years old, but he still says it from time to time that he wants to be a priest, and I will support that if he wants to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other one is too young to even think about that yet, and the other one is he's 8 and he's figuring it all out right now. So
there you go.
So they're all in different places, you know. But
yeah.
My daughters, one of them's too young to even, I mean, she's still babbling. She doesn't say words very well yet. But my 4-year-old, it's funny, we've gone to a few Catholic retreats, and she loves hanging out with nuns. Like she wants to be a mom, but she loves hanging out with nuns. They are her favorite people. And I wish there was more nuns in the area so she could hang out with them, because nuns are so sweet. They're so nice. Yeah. And they're very prayerful women. You know, as long as they're traditional nuns and not like the weird,
not the suit jacket kind,
somewhat feminist, older women fraternity kind of thing going on.
Yeah. That was one thing I noticed during the bishop coronation for our bishop. Mother Natalia and a few of the other sisters from her convent were there.
Well, that's cool.
And, obviously everyone wanted to go talk to Mother Natalia, but her and all the rest of the mothers and sisters, they were all carrying babies. And obviously they're not their babies. They were just like, the parking was crazy. So I parked like 3 or 4 blocks away and had to walk. And there was like a nun just with someone's kid, and she was like calming the baby down, like walking around. So I like walked over to the church with this nun. She just had someone's baby. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, it's such a shame that they're not around like they used to be, because I can just imagine how, one, being in a parish where there's a lot, you know, you have traditional priests, and then having a lot of nuns around, and even like, I can't imagine how helpful it would be to have them there and to just get to be around them all the time. I think the communities that have convents are probably very, very blessed, assuming that they go around into the community, of course. You know, some of them, you know, if they're cloistered, that's also really cool. I'm sure you're getting tons of extra prayers if you live in a community with some cloistered nuns.
So we used to have quite a big amount of nuns in the area where we live, because there's actually there's a used to be world famous boarding school near me that was Catholic. It is since no longer basically a boarding school. It's more of just a high school now, but it's still got some pretty good recognition across the board. Like Notre Dame reaches out to them sometimes, not a lot, but like outreach stuff. Anyways, but when Vatican II hit, with kind of the changes to how they viewed vocations for women, that destroyed most of the convents. I mean, there's some clips I've seen online of some movies that kind of cover this situation, but I just find it so crazy that we all talk about the priest shortage because it affects us directly. The priest shortage affects us immediately. Like, you see parishes shutting down without priests. You see just one priest per parish when you used to have maybe 2 or 3. And that is a huge loss. But you went from like 250,000 priests, or I'm sorry, nuns, down to like 40,000. I mean, it hit hard. Women left. You had less joining. And I mean, there's just very few nuns left, comparatively speaking, to the priests.
Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah. Well, and I think it's because I think it's asking more out of them. I think that I can see a lot of men who like don't have kids, and it's like, you would be, instead of sitting there and like maximizing the efficiency of widget production, you would be so much better off being a priest, you know?
Yeah.
Guys who don't want to get married. And not like, if you don't want to get married, that means you should just go become a priest, obviously. But like, so many women get hit hard with the 35 holy moly I need to have a baby thing, and so it really takes so much out of them. I respect them so much. I can't imagine, like, when I see a lot of the women around me, like, who want to be moms and want to have babies, and I think that especially in Gen Z, a lot of women like see how nasty millennial women are as far as like how they've just completely rejected motherhood, and even some Gen X women. And I think that a lot of like the women that I'm around, and you know, a lot of them aren't even necessarily super trad because a lot of them are Protestant, but like they all want to be moms, you know? And so it's like there, I do not see that. And so I don't blame them about wanting to, I don't blame them for like not wanting to go and join a monastery because they want to be moms. And so it seems or a convent, it seems like seems like such a sacrifice for them.
I just had to remove somebody from the chat who was being very strange. just telling you guys right now, if you saw those comments, I removed them.
Okay.
We're not doing prophecy in my YouTube chat. I'm just saying it's not happening. You want to do prophecy? Go to your own channel. All right. I do see you said a Bacante hoping for I need a baby seed chick apparently. So good luck.
There you go.
For the record, this channel does not support the Sede Vacantis opinion. I'm just letting you guys know that right out the gate.
We just like Sede Vacante because he's a nice guy and our friend.
Because he's a nice guy, he's funny.
Yes.
But we disagree on the Sede opinion. That's a fact. Yeah. All right. I had something I was gonna say, and discernment. I don't want to spoil my interview with Joe Heschmeyer, but one of the things we talked about in the interview that's going to come out sometime in the future, provided I receive the video files, is discernment. And I've actually know quite a few people who went through discernment. That's not an end state. Discernment is not. It doesn't mean if you go through discernment, you will be a priest. It means that you're trying to determine if your vocation is priesthood or else, which would most likely be marriage. You know, and not everybody finds a spouse, but you will decide whether you are actually meant to be a priest or meant to be a husband. And usually there's very few other options. I mean, you might get the occasional weird martyr saint thing where you're not going to be a husband or a priest, but declare Christ as king and die for it. It's probably not going to be most of us in the United States.
Well, I have a lot of friends in the TFP, and they're not allowed to get married. So
the TFP.
Yeah, and the TFP, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property.
Oh, interesting.
So they're not they're explicitly Catholic, but they're not religious. Like they don't have a connection to the church directly. But they basically, the entire organization is like an emulation of a religious society, or but it's explicitly because of the work they do. We'll just call it the revolution. When all the new revolutionary stuff was happening, obviously you had a ton of good priests who weren't allowed to speak out against things because they had bad bishops. And so because of that, the organization is explicitly secular.
Okay.
But they live their lives in emulation of religious. So they
it's like a secular Templars.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, essentially. So they're all daily communicants. They all have to be Catholic, and they the organization is explicitly Catholic, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had put him in timeout, but I noticed he got banned, so I'm guessing Haley stepped in for me. Thanks, Haley. Awesome moderator. If you ever need a Catholic moderator for your channel, reach out to Haley. She's awesome. All right. Okay, let's see here. We have a prediction that Majorian's going to have 10K followers by the end of next year. He didn't use the marketing material I gave him, the Majorians.
You have marketing material for his fans?
Yeah, I did. I made some for him.
I like Majorian sells best. That one's funny. But yeah, I think he might be able to. My prediction for myself was that I was going to hit 3K by the end of this year, and I'm almost at 2. So, and I started my account for on Twitter at least. And I started my account in November of last year. So I think within 1 year, I'll for sure break pretty far past 2K.
Yeah, you guys in Gen Z, you guys have really good social media awareness. Me as a millennial, not so much. But
I'm
my
also just a
account's
spammer
finally.
timeline.
What was that?
I also just spam the timeline though.
I've experimented with that from time to time. Like if I'm up late at night, I just start spamming the timeline to see who I can lure into my account. But I'm not as focused on numbers as I am focused on who follows me.
Yeah,
because I want the right people there
mm-hmm.
who believe what I believe, and at the very least we can have conversations. That's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not super well. One of the funny things is I think a good example of why that matters is if you look at Christian Wagner, I think he only has 35 or 40,000 followers, maybe 50,000.
He's got like 30,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. So on YouTube, he has 35,000. But the way he set up everything, it makes him. I mean, he's not rich or anything, but it makes him an income, and he's giving out really, really good information, and all of his fans are really, really big fans. Like his number, like I don't know what it's called, but there's like a monetized amount per viewer or something, or per 1,000 views or whatever it is. I would assume if you included his super chats from his streams, his is probably insanely high. And so he's a good
your
example.
CPM.
Yeah. And so his is a really good example of maximizing. I mean, he's probably super, super far on one end with that.
I can tell you from being I've been monetized on YouTube. I don't know if your channel is yet or not. You got to be getting close though, because they changed the rules now, and it's like when I got monetized, it was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in a single year.
Yeah,
that was hard. We did it, but it was hard.
Yeah.
And it was in the video games, which is like a very, very saturated market.
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard to do as well. But for about 12,000 views on that channel, I would get $40. That
12,000 views.
I would get
so
about
that's
$40.
like for every 6 videos, I'd get
$40. Yeah, but when you're starting out, that's not bad. It basically pays for your expenses to a degree.
Yeah, that's my goal. So I don't really care if I make money. My goal is to break even on the channel expenses, because right now I'm paying a bunch of money to stream. So it's my goal. I'd like to pay off my Twitter subscription, and I'd like to pay off my StreamYard subscription, which is like $65 a month. I've gotten a decent amount of people supporting me on Buy Me a Coffee. So to everyone who does that, thank you. But yeah, I'm trying to get there. I'm not in a huge rush, honestly. I'm looking in like a 10-year time frame of trying to, as if I can keep my channel going, like of trying to get stuff going, especially because the type of content I'd really like to make in the future is going to require me to read a lot more books. So I've started down that track, but it's going to take some time. Let me turn this light on 1 second. But I'd like to eventually be able to make like talking head videos, and yeah. You know how many dollar burritos you could get for $40? Like $38.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah. But I'd like to get to the point where I could be making like new polity level political philosophy videos at a certain point, and so it's going to take a lot of reading to get myself there, because I don't have any formal education. I've only taken like accounting 100 and 200 and advanced business statistics and all the useless stuff that my business degree qualified me to.
I really don't think a college degree at these days put up a buy me a beer option. Yes. Thank you, St. Anthony Padua of Rad Trad. I agree. Put up a beer, buy me a beer section. That'd be great. Anyways, or maybe ship me a Tridentine or Tridentine beer, however you want to pronounce that name.
You're supposed to be shipping me some.
Those are great, and you should definitely never tell anybody that you're actually getting them shipped to you in case there's any legalities there. So he's not shipping them to you. They're going to make their way over somehow.
Sorry. Yeah. I am not violating the interstate commerce or dispersion or transit of any alcohol.
In any way, shape, or form.
I made a friend, and I was talking with a friend who just so happens to make beer, and I was telling him how much I wanted to taste his beer, and that's the entire extent of our conversation. I also really like his
social media is very aware.
Yes,
they are very good at nailing the Catholicity of their business.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I like their can design specifically. There's a where we go in Wyoming, we like to visit. There's a brewery there, and they do all like mid-century style. Every single beer is like a pinup model. And so it's like kind of gross because it's a pinup model, but it's cool because it's like a vintage art style.
Mhm.
And I like, they do something similar where on a lot of their stuff, like they have that one beer with like the sailor on it. It's like a really cool kind of classic feeling design on a lot of their stuff. Because there's tons of beer cans where you'll like, dude, this looks sick. And then you pick it up and it's like triple hazy IPA. You're like, oh, this is going to taste disgusting. And you
So there's only like 2 IPAs I've ever had that I liked. And one of them was the one that Tridentine produces. And then the other one is the Sierra Nevada, which I do like that one as well. But I really am not. Yeah, I'm really not an IPA guy.
Yeah, me neither. I like the Ballast Point Brewing has the Sculpin. It's like a spiky, it's like a fish can, and it's like a spiky fish. That one's okay. I'll drink IPAs by themselves, like a regular IPA I will occasionally drink, but most of them are like double IPAs, triple IPAs, hazy IPAs, or like some weird flavor, and all those are disgusting. And I don't like any of those. So I have no interest in messing around with any of that. I like beer a lot, and I'm trying not to drink it as often. But if you only have IPAs at your function, I will not be tempted. So that's the way to help me stay sober.
I've actually been. I haven't talked about this on the podcast, but I've been to California once. I was in San Jose for about 5 days visiting a friend who worked for a tech company out there.
Okay.
And this was back in like 2014 timeframe. And we went and saw an EDM concert. That was what I was up to in California.
That's funny.
I got to see Flux Pavilion backstage. It was wild.
I've never even heard of that. I know nothing about EDM.
Yeah. So that like, if you want to talk about how different I was in 2014, that's what I was doing 11 years ago.
Yeah. I started getting into EDM recently, but I only listen to the kind like, those edits where they're like, remember what Europe used to be, or it'll be like Catholic edits. I literally have a playlist of only those songs that are in it. So I'll listen to that kind of EDM at the gym, but that's it.
I really like, there's this guy, it's like Niklaus or whatever, but he's got like the Pope wave edit, and like there's one about like they did the funeral of Otto, one of the last Austrian royalty or whatever, where they have like the knock on the door and it's like the king of blah blah blah. Actually, that's something we're missing. I love tradition, especially when it comes to the monarchy. They just did things better. Like, it's so much cooler. Especially if it's actually Catholic. And I hope at one point the crown of England becomes Catholic again, because that would just blow my mind. But they have this ceremony, and this is a Habsburg thing, where they're taking the coffin to the church, and like they name all the titles, like, king, da 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 da, or like heir to blah blah blah, and the priest says, "We know not anyone by that name." And then they knock again, and they name all of his like stately titles, like, oh, he's the this and that, and then we know him not by that name. And then they like name all of the wealth and the things that he's done and how many kids he has. Like, oh, we know him not by that name. Like, we bring you Otto, a sinner. And then like, and they open the doors and let him in.
That's rad.
And I'm like, that's amazing. Because everybody at the end of their days, you'll be judged by one thing and one thing only. Were you in a state of grace when you died?
Yeah. Well, you're actually going to get judged a lot harder if you're the king. It's going to be a lot rougher for you.
Oh, yeah. Did you talk to Bug Hall about that at all?
About monarchy?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm happy to talk to anyone about it, but I was super focused on his homesteading stuff.
Okay.
Asking about that.
We got into the monarchy when I interviewed him, and he was talking about how it's almost necessary that somebody in that position not be exposed to all the wants and needs, like the lower level people who don't have to think like that on a daily basis. It's more like the really hard decisions, you have to kind of be trained to handle that. And it's better if it's not like 600 people all trying to steal money from the peasants. It is not an enviable position to be the king of a people. It's honestly this movie's super feminist. So if you haven't watched it, you don't need to watch it, but Brave, the Pixar movie. I do like that movie.
Yeah, but one of the things it does well is that it does show the mom in that movie understands her responsibility to her people. You know, she's teaching Merida, the princess, what the responsibilities are. A princess doesn't do this, a princess doesn't do that. And Pixar misunderstands it, and they think that it's like, you know, to put her down or whatever, or she's not free. But really, you're not free. If you're this is one of the reasons why I really, really respected Queen Elizabeth, and why I don't speak ill of her, and why I miss her, and I look back very fondly on her life, is because she very clearly understood that her entire life was in service and as a servant to her people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things you can critique her about, but that's very, very rare to see one of those royalty who understands that. Prince Harry doesn't understand that. No. Princess Diana didn't understand that. And that's why she was a darling to the media and to all of the liberals, was because they loved that she rejected that. And I think that that's horrendous. And our whole life is, we're placed by God at a certain part in a hierarchy. And to a certain extent, there is something natural about achieving a higher station in life for yourself through your own merit. Mm-hmm. But there's also a certain virtue in being placed where you are by God and accepting that and fulfilling the role he's put you in. And so I do agree that with what Bug's saying, that for people who are placed in these difficult situations, who are placed in these, who are the leaders and the teachers, it's like the same thing. Like, why, like the Pope should not want for anything. The Pope should live comfortably because he's constantly making extremely difficult decisions. Same thing. And the same thing for a monarch. He should not have to, he should be fed whenever he's hungry. Like, you know, obviously there's things he should do to maintain his own spiritual life if he's going to fast, whatever. Like,
when he'll be judged on his responsibility that he owes to the people.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize, because people don't believe in anything eternal. And so the only thing they can look at is the temporal power that they have, and they don't see the fact that they're shackling themselves to something immense, and that there's a lot they're going to have to answer for. And so there are certain benefits. But honestly, like, if you told me that I'm going to have a net worth of whatever the Queen's net worth was, but I have to live the life that she lived, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's just not. That's not a trade. Like, my life never belonging to me is not something that I was born for. And I mean, I wasn't born as royalty, so I literally wasn't born for it, right? And that's something the TFP has a lot of members who are royalty. And so like one of the I don't know where he is in line for whatever the Habsburg throne is, but he's like a German prince or a duke or something, and his kids go to their school. The old crown prince of Brazil died last year or the year before, and he was a member of the TFP. And so one of the things I like about them is they really understand that really well, because they have these members, and they are, when you meet them and when they haven't rejected their station in life, you really see that they were placed there by God, and they were given something that we weren't. And they belong there, you know. And some of them reject it, and often people who reject it are the ones who end up not having that, and the ones who accept it seem to really excel.
Well, that is one thing that I think we glorify in society. Is like, if you come from a family of doctors and you're like, oh, I'm going to be a painter, like, you are rejecting the station of life that God placed you in. Mm-hmm. Now, not every person who's a child of doctors is going to be a doctor. Obviously, some kids are just not meant to be the same thing as their parents. Yeah. But overall, your station in life, it's not something to reject and throw away. It's something to embrace and live to the fullest.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The issues, yeah, 100%. So there's two issues from a realistic perspective. I think that you have an obligation to do the most with what you're given.
Yes.
And so one of the beautiful things is that, like, everyone who's saying this is doing it wrong. A lot of the people in schools and stuff are saying, well, we need to encourage trades and we need to encourage this and all that kind of stuff. They're doing it from the wrong angle. But it is good. People who are born to work a trade, who are born to toil, for lack of a better term, there's immense honor in that, and they deserve to be respected for that. But there's also something in people who are born to be a doctor and to be a lawyer and to be royalty or whatever, there's also honor in those people accepting that. If you have a really high IQ, you should really make the most of your IQ and go in and do the most good you can with that. You know, you're given whatever amount of talents you're given, like from the parable, you know, you're responsible to do with what you're given. And so the issue is also from a certain perspective, from a practical perspective, obviously, like people are born with higher IQs. They're born with, like, literally part of being disciplined is literally like genetic. It's in your genes. And there is a certain return to the mean. So like a family can only be exceptional for so long without outside influence, just because that's how genetics work. And so and that's part of why you have to go easy on people, is because realistically, even if like both your parents are like 130 IQ, like genius, like brain surgeons, like the way the bell curve works is you could still fall on the far end of it, you know? And so you have to give, like, if they have a dumb kid or like just a weird kid, like who's artistic or whatever,
you're not always going to have doctors having doctor children.
Yeah.
But so generally speaking, like there used to be a level of
end of the spectrum right now.
Yes.
Where you know, 80 to 90% of the time, people should be falling and roughly in line with what their parents are doing, or doing that but better. And then 10% of the time they might do something else. And alternatively, we kind of almost see it at the opposite, where people want to go do something else all the time, and it's seen as like settling or being lazy to continue what your parents have done.
Whereas in reality, continue what your parents did builds a legacy. You could be a legacy. Like some people are meant to be here's one. Some people are meant to make cigars, right? And there's a level of skill to that. There's a reason why there's a legacy of Cuban cigars. It's because there's a family or a group that has produced high quality cigars for years, and now they've made a legacy of it. And you only get to that point where it's a legacy, or like that tattoo shop in Jerusalem, where it's like a legacy of a family where they can do these high quality, quick tattoos in Jerusalem. And I only know about this because I listened to a podcast with Father Joe Krupp and Father Mike Schmitz, which was super interesting, by the way, because of the legacy behind it.
Yeah.
When you've been doing something for 1,000 years, there is a level of tips and tricks you cannot teach somebody without having lived in the business.
Well, and that's something that
now we're talking the cigars.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what Bug Hall was talking about. He views it from a little bit of a different perspective, but I know he would acknowledge that this exists. I know that it's just not for him. Like, he does a subsistence farming, right? And there's an inherent virtue in that. And I know he would admit that in the same way there's an inherent virtue in being a craftsman, right? But it's different because you're still. But I think that one of the things that our culture really doesn't value, there's a guy, he might be on here. His account is like, I really hope I'm not getting the guy wrong. I think his name's Brendan. I'm not going to say what his account is in case it's the wrong guy, but I was talking about like nice clothes, like artisanal clothes, right? And he was saying that's so gay. Like, guys shouldn't care about how they look or spend money on their clothes. And I just think, like, in the same way that someone might go, that's so gay. Like, why are you not providing for your family, Bug Hall? Why are you being a subsistence farmer? Like, no, there's inherent virtue in doing that. And in the same way that producing like the greatest suit that can be produced, and the greatest jeans that can be produced, and the greatest boots that can be produced, and the greatest cigar. And, you know, there are probably, that tattoo shop could probably go, yeah, it's Duck for Days. Okay, I was right. Yeah. Majorian confirmed. I'm not thinking of the wrong guy. Brendan Duck for Days. And so he, in the same way that a lot of those tattoo guys might be able to go do something else and make more money, but there's a virtue in continuing what their family's done. In a lot of Japanese, not to be like thing in America, thing in Japan, you know, like not to do the meme, but one of the things that the Japanese understand is doing that. There's a lot of companies that I've purchased from where they won't expand beyond a certain size just because they can't maintain their quality beyond a certain size. And I think that you see in Catholic culture, in one of the reasons that America grew so quickly with like the Protestant work ethic stuff was in contradiction to Catholic culture, is that it got all big and then it got really big and then it got really low, right? Like a lot of American greatness is in volume. It's in in speed, in efficiency. It's not in greatness. Like America isn't the best.
That's why China has embraced that work model to the point where it's toxic.
Yeah, they've exploited it, and
Yeah.
we used to exploit it, right? And that's a super nuanced, like 3 century long, analysis you can go into. But nowhere in America have they built like at least to the same. There are a couple cathedrals in America that could stand on par with some of the ones in Europe. But I mean, our country is the size of their entire continent, and they probably have 100 times the density of beautiful churches.
Oh yeah.
So and the same thing with a lot of different crafts, even in their current liberal governments. Like France protects their heritage. They protect their craft winemaking and their leather making and so on.
And they really protect their language. They really don't like bringing new words into their language that don't have a purpose.
Yeah, same thing in Italy. And so I think that comes from their Catholicism, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to appreciate there. And you and I are both inherently American, and we can connect to it because we're Catholic. And I think you're a cradle Catholic, so you can connect with it probably a little bit more. But and I think it's sad that a lot of American Catholics don't realize that there is virtue in perfection, I guess. Perfection is not the correct word, but
we get past a certain point, it becomes scrupulous, and you don't want to do that either. But there's a level of craftsmanship that is desired and required in order to be virtuous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that like the really big basilica in St. Louis, it's the biggest mosaic in the world that they have in there, I'm pretty sure. And it was built by 3 generations, by a grandpa, a father, and a son. And
that's cool.
That's amazing. Oh, dude, why is the Catholic Church paying $1 gajillion for 3 generations of guys to spend their entire lives building a mosaic? What do you mean why? Because it's
awesome.
It's awesome, yeah. Because we're better than you, like that's why. And it's a shame. I really hope that we're able to embrace that more. I think that there's a huge growing movement. You see it out of a lot of the Steubenville people. You see it out of the Catholic land people. You see it from Bug Hall. You see it from a lot of people. There's a lot of independent threads growing right now, and I think they're going to in my lifetime and in your lifetime they'll connect. And
they already are. They already are to a degree. I've seen some of it in my own travels and experience. It's like they're all aiming for the same thing, and so there is a Venn diagram where they all touch.
And I think that probably within, I mean, your kids will be on the older end of a generation that my kids will be on the younger end of, right? And so I think that our children or our future children or whatever will see it a lot more. And I think that by the time there's a generation after them, I think they're going to get to reap the fruit of what's being planted by everyone right now. And so I don't,
because the people that don't align with us aren't having children, so their legacy is done.
Yeah, and so ultimately, the Infinity Mexicans and Guatemalans that they import, like
the Infinity,
yeah, well, essentially. Although the better their lives get, the less kids they have too. But then there's always going to be somewhere. But
isn't that funny? It's like the Roman thing where it's like you give them bread and entertainment, and they just not stop having children because they're comfortable.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think that's always been a hard thing to manage for everyone. I always hate the bread and circuses thing because I think that a lot of people look at that perfection and they go, that's bread and circuses. Like actually, the Olympics achieving better and better physical results is not bread and circuses. It's actually just achieving, like, it's glorifying God through perfecting like what we're able to do,
Oh no, that's not what I'm talking about with bread and circuses.
No, I know. I'm talking
about something entirely different.
Oh, okay. I was just saying I'm putting it out there that I don't like. I mean, I'm not a huge sports guy, but like the sports ball people who like the Go team, that type of guy,
Rome was destroyed by basically one specific thing: debasement of currency.
No, that's not it. That's not the only thing.
That was a huge part of it. Okay?
No, that's a lot of it. Yeah,
that was like one of the biggest reasons Rome ran into big issues.
Have
I've
you read
read
that
some
book
book,
on money by Stephen Mitford Goodson?
maybe, but the debasement was a huge problem because if your currency holds no value, people won't use it, and then you lose. I didn't say the only reason, but it's probably the biggest reason. If your currency has no value,
Libertarian, so he thinks it's the only reason.
oh, Sedevacante's libertarian.
Yeah, he's a libertarian, so he thinks it's the only
But
reason.
immigration was a problem too. If your population can't maintain itself, and you end up importing a different culture into your culture, like it's in the Bible. If you import a different culture into yours, they will eventually own you.
It says foreigners will come into your lands and they will rule over you.
Yep.
And so one of the things is that and you see a lot in Rome at different time periods, they have debates over what it even means to be a Roman, who's allowed to be a Roman. Iberians are Romans, Palestinians are Romans, Greeks are Romans, North Africans are Romans. What do these people have in common? And now we're sitting here having this conversation 2,000 years later, and we're taking people from the subcontinent and bringing them here and going, what do they have in common with us? And so it's like, everything just repeats itself. Although, funnily enough, a lot of the monetary stuff there is kind of weird. They had obviously their money was literally gold, and they had issues with, lowering percentages and all that kind of stuff.
Debasement.
But for a lot of it, initially the way that their money worked, because it was so heavily controlled, like the flow of money, I actually think if they had a way to efficiently, if we could go back and give them dollar bills, we could actually fix a lot of their monetary issues. I still think that the empire would have fallen. I think that any land that grows that large is kind of doomed to fail. I think that's how America is. Thursday was on Avoiding Babylon, and he was saying that America is too big to be governed appropriately based on Catholic social teaching. And I think
not only that, but we've outgrown. There's a number, I can't remember what it is, but one of my friends harps on this all the time. And there's a certain number of people where if you don't have representation for that number, then the representation you do have won't know most of the population that they're representing. And that becomes a problem.
Well, you have to maintain a polity, and you can't. Sorry, but 300 million people is not a polity. It's just a state. It's just an apparatus, And so I don't. My friend was saying, he told a story, and I don't know where it comes from, but he was saying there's an old lady and she's praying for the king, and a lady or someone walks up to the old lady and says, "Why are you praying for the king? He's a tyrant." And she said, "Well, I didn't pray for the last king, and I actually prayed for his downfall. And this king is much worse. And so now I pray for the king because I don't know who's going to be coming after him." And so I think we have to be very, very careful. I did a video with Rob talking about balkanization of the United States and kind of fantasizing, how would the lines break down? And obviously it's all fun. It's all on good, and it's fun to do that. But, we have to be very careful what we ask for and what we wish for, because you might be lucky and you might get Napoleon. For Black Monk Rosaries, that's going to make him happy. Nick loves Napoleon. For a lot of people, that's going to make them not happy. And so it's inevitably we're going to end up somewhere better, because we know that we win in the end, right? The issue is just like, we could go through a lot of crappy stuff to get there. And, I'd like to at least not have my life be terrible. I want to live in post-fall Yugoslavia.
You can actually look at the periods or the seasons, I will call them, of the Bible to see where society goes.
Mm-hmm.
Inevitably, you end up with a very authoritarian type of regime, whether it's a good one or a bad one. You end up with like either you get a dictator who's usually pretty bad, like when you had like the communists down in Mexico and they ruined the church down there, and you get the Cristeros rise up and end that, or you end up with a good king like David. He's not perfect, but he's a good king. And inevitably, though, you fall back into like a judges type of thing, because look at the tribes, they end up splitting, and the land turns into many different nations, essentially, that are all tribal, have their own leaders. And you roll back between that. You end up with representation in smaller groups versus like a king where you have one person ruling a lot of area. The Roman Republic was doomed to fail because that's just that's just the way things happen in human nature. Like right now, what do people want when they elect a president? They want somebody to come in and just do stuff. They want them to essentially ignore Congress and do things. That's what people are looking like. The bulk. I'm not talking about you and I.
No, that's what
the
I want.
General population wants. What I'm saying is though, like, they think that the president can do that without Congress's help at all, and so eventually, a president is just going to test that and just do things. And you're going to end up with a president ruling by default because Congress can't do anything, and the judges can only rule on yes or no. He can or can't do that. And so we're living. And when was the last time we had a regular Joe become the president?
Dude, I don't know about presidents, so I couldn't tell you. I would guess never.
Pretty much never. I mean, we're being ruled by the same classes that were ruling over in England, or immigrants who have lots of money that have been here for several generations. Well, those are the ruling class.
Well, having a ruling class and an aristocracy is a good thing.
It's not bad necessarily.
That you want a virtuous. So, like, one of the things from a right-wing perspective that I think a lot of people. So, like, there are people on the left who reject reality, right? I mean, basically everyone who's not a Catholic has to reject reality because you just explicitly don't believe in Jesus, who's the Logos and who is reality and the logic of the universe, right? So on any spectrum away from that, you get more diluted.
I'm gonna have to Obama pill Black Monk rosaries here soon. He clearly doesn't know what he's talking about.
But and so one of the things when you accept that the world is objective and is real, you kind of look at some like political realities, right? So for example, from a political perspective, oligarchy is inevitable, meaning that there's always going to be a ruling class no matter what. In China, there's a ruling class. In the USSR, there was a ruling class. In Rome, there was a ruling class. Right now, we have a ruling class, and they're the people who do everything. And so the question you have to ask when you're looking at government is, how do we incentivize, or how do we build a system that incentivizes the people who are inevitably going to rule over us, that it'll end up being good people and that they're incentivized to act correctly? And when you look, one of the reasons why everyone looks at the Middle Ages, or all Catholics do, and go, wow, that was so amazing, is because that's what we had. You know, people would do bad things and not everyone was amazing. And some people would tax too harshly and so on and so forth. But, you know, the standard was virtue for all of them. And so and it's, what is it? It's called the iron law of oligarchy. I don't know who called it that. Or you can even just look at like the Pareto principle and all that type of stuff. Like the bell curve tells you what it's going to be. And I mean, but the issue is that a lot of people, when you talk with them, and especially anyone who's connected to democracy, is basically just going to deny this because you have to keep the illusion alive. But and it makes it very difficult to speak with people about that kind of stuff, I think. But I haven't navigated how to figure it out exactly. I'm very slowly red pilling my dad, and so I'm kind of what is it? I'm working on my strategy with him right now. I'll put it out there eventually.
See, my dad was always like a skeptic. We'll call him that. I'll give him the best term I can come up with. My dad was always skeptical of anybody who had a level of power and whether or not to trust them. And his skepticism has always kept me skeptical of things. Yeah. So like for me coming back to the faith, I was skeptical about a lot of things that I have since been, we'll say, Mary pilled on. That's based. But it's a long story. But basically, I accept the faith wholeheartedly in every way, shape, or form. But the skepticism in me has always applied to government and stuff. So like when somebody tries to claim this piety that I know doesn't fit the profile of the person running for president, I'm like, there's no way this person came from nothing. I'm sorry. Or if they did, somebody decided this person was worth bringing up to the elite level, right? Like you can still have people at that level essentially tapping people to be dukes in the modern era. Like feudalism never actually died, it just got renamed.
Kind of. Well, I think it's,
you can definitely make your way in this capitalist society we live in now, but there is still a level of feudalism that exists in it.
I think the issue is that, well, I view feudalism as a good thing. So I would say no, there isn't, because I think that all the good things I see there aren't there, you know? But,
The
but
bads of feudalism have survived, not the
yeah,
goods.
yeah, that's fair. I think the issue is that one of the questions that people don't even bother to ask in America, especially, and this is the issue obviously with Americanism and with American Catholics, is, you know, they accept liberalism and they accept
Yeah.
American myth. And the issue is that when your myth is, when everyone believes in a myth, right? Like every polity, every people has a myth, and every religion, and a religion is a part of that. And so Protestantism and the rejection of Anglo-Catholicism, whether or not it's true, is the American myth, right? And so yeah, that would be good to talk about. And so the issue is that people never even stop to ask themselves the question. They say, well, you know, is the president even a normal guy? Do you even want a president who's a normal guy? Is that a good thing? You know, I know a lot of my friends are normal guys. Sorry, they should not be president. They're not smart enough. They're not virtuous enough. They do not handle pressure well enough. I actually think that one of the advantages of, when you look at a lot of presidents, one of the things that's changed in the last 20 years or 30 years is that you'll notice, one, there hasn't been a big war, and so this is part of it, but none of the presidents are war heroes anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a lot to critique about JFK, but he was a veteran, and he served. There was a large amount of virtue, and being a part of that ruling class allows you to. Yeah, dude, I haven't had him on either. That's honestly criminal. I should do Majori and me and Nick. I bet we could do like 3 hours of arguing.
I think he's in my next couple weeks. I'm gonna double check, but just
Yeah.
shout out to Black Monk Rosaries. We're gonna be having CatholicInc.biz.
Yeah.
Let's see. He's next Monday. Next Monday I'm having him on. So don't try and steal him away from me next Monday.
Okay. But yeah, people just don't ask themselves that question. And that's something I would really look into. The TFP has a book on nobility. And they have a few other books that are worth reading too, but a lot of their stuff, it really tells you, like, for example, like it's good. A king should give his kingdom to his son. You know, a man should give his business to his son, or at least his skills. You know, like this idea of like being self-made and nepotism and all that kind of stuff is not a bad thing. And if you look historically, there was an ability for people to progress throughout society. I think in Spain, there were certain universities that you could attend, and on your second or third or fourth generation, I don't know exactly what it was, of attending this university, you'd be granted a title. And so, and it's much more natural to be moving in generations, to be
I agree,
riding generational waves, right? You know, this idea that, I mean, there's a lot of virtue, like in seeing like the self-made billionaire type of guys, but they are not. That's not a natural thing, you know.
no, it's not.
And so, a lot of them exhibit natural virtue that allows them to take advantage of the situations that they're under. But you can just tell, like when you hear Jeff Bezos, when you hear who's the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates, when you hear Warren Buffett, all of them talk, you're like, this is not natural for you to have become this rich in your lifetime.
No.
Whether or not that amount of wealth even existing is natural is a separate question that I won't get into. But yeah, I don't know. I could literally talk about politics. Like, I don't like talking about like who's going to win, you know, local elections. This is my bread and butter. I could talk about this for a million years.
I really do think that the level of power within our control is more local than we think it is. And I really saw this during one of the last elections when you had constitutional carry counties in Michigan. Like, you would see the governor looking like she was moving towards banning things, or the government looking at their banning things. Like, no, we are a Second Amendment sanctuary, and we will not allow you to change the laws to affect the Constitution. They ended up going to court and things like that. And there was other laws too, especially during COVID, that were challenged in various counties. And it was super interesting just how much power a county has and how much the state wants to take that away. Like, there's a lot of interesting movements happening in my home state, and I'm all for learning what the extent of the power of the county is. I'm definitely all for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that you can't, if the government decides that your town is now Somaliville, like you can't really do anything about that, like unfortunately. And that's one of the reasons why you have to explicitly build communities. That's one of the reasons why I talked with Bug, why I talked with Arvel, why I talked with Caesar Australis, all these guys who talk about that stuff. But yeah, there definitely is stuff you can do, like in my city, they're not moving homeless encampments. And in the city next door, which is super, super ghetto, they recently finally started moving homeless encampments. You can't be publicly camped, right? That is an extreme lifestyle, quality of life difference, whether or not your city is tolerant of homeless people, whether or not the sheriff in your county is tolerant of shoplifting. Are the police in your town, can you shoplift up to $1,000, or is every shoplifting offense prosecutable? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of videos. For the most part, where I live, they are prosecutable.
They're prosecutable?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So I would imagine, like, when I walk into Target, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I talk to people who live in certain areas with certain demographic makeups, and they think I'm like lying or exaggerating. Everything except for the sunscreen is locked up at Target.
Oh, geez, that's terrible.
If I want to buy face wash and toothpaste, it'll take me 20 minutes because I have to walk up, I have to wait for a customer service person to come up. They have to unlock it for me. I have to tell them what I want. They give it to me. I walk over to the next section, beep it again. Yeah, and so it'd
almost be better if you got escorted into the store at that point.
Or what I really need to do is and I hate using Amazon because Amazon's evil, but like at a certain point, I just need to give up and start Amazoning everything. It's not like supporting Target's much better than Amazon.
No, you're talking about one corporation or another.
Yeah, but what Cigar Mode said is right. He said subsidiarity is the Catholic ethos,
and I threw that up there.
Is that you do need to, like, especially from a sheriff perspective, support the guy who's going to protect your right to carry. Support the guy who's going to prosecute criminals, who's not going to let people out of jail. In my town, they've had a lot of things recently. Unfortunately, the people on the city council are communists, but like we need to get them out of office. Like they want to induce rent control in my town.
That's like nuts.
It's all this ridiculous stuff. And so it's like, yeah, from a practical political perspective, I'm fine talking with people about local stuff because that's about the only time where my conversation is going to matter. But in general, I think there's a huge advantage to spreading, waking more people up and to like the more philosophical side, because the top 10% are really the only people who matter anyways, for making wide scale societal change.
That's true.
But those people, a lot of them need to be woken up. And a lot of them, I think if we put forth sufficiently convincing arguments, will be like, I think that, if anyone's going to convince someone to really fall in line with Catholic orthodoxy politically, like it's going to be Jacob Imam and his guys. It's not going to be like, a lot of other more normie people, And so I don't know. Like I said, I could talk about it all night.
So what's interesting is I've heard that the best way to make a change is to own the change, right? So let's say you've got, I don't know, some real estate development going on. The best way to make sure that real estate development is handled in a way that was beneficial to the town is to be the guy doing it. So if you have that kind of power, then make the changes you want to see. Like, we can't have people at the highest end of reality of wealth not being Catholic. We need them to be Catholic, and we need them to make the changes that the Catholics need, that would make everybody live a better life, and not in this weird equity federal government plan.
Yeah, there is a natural way to do it, but yeah, I don't know.
Definitely need to have another conversation here in the future. I definitely enjoy this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything? We're at 2 hours. I'm not sure how much time you got, but is there anything else that you wanted to discuss that we missed? Be fashionable, man. You want to pick up women? Be fashionable.
Oh yeah, I can talk about that for a little bit.
Not in a modern leftist way, in a classic gentlemanly way.
Yeah, actually, I should grab some books and recommend books for people. Give me a second.
Let's do that. Let's do that. So in the meantime, I just want to say that I want to shout out ANewCrusade. You guys should go check out his channel. If you're on mine and you're not on his, you should follow him. We agree on a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of things. And I genuinely think he's doing a good thing, especially in the Gen Z space. So go and follow him, subscribe to his channel. Additionally, you should check out the Latin Slavs. They've been plugged a lot in this, and they've been plugged a lot on my channel, but I want to plug them again because I genuinely think those guys are going to blow up at some point and have a huge audience. And you guys should be in on the early take for that and check them out. Anthony Campbell is I will say this, he is based in Marypilled, as well as our friend Caleb here. So definitely check out both their channels. Shout out to both of them. So
okay, so yeah, thank you for the talking good about me. Okay, so
thank you for that quick little commercial in the middle of your podcast.
I appreciate it. I'll have to clip that and turn it into a YouTube short.
There you
go. So for assuming that you basically dress like a fool, there are a few things I'm going to recommend. I think that when you look up stuff online, you're going to get a lot of I think a lot of people think that they have to dress in like a certain way to look nice. And like, you know, like a lot of guys might be, there's actually a weird line depending on what generation you are, where like a lot of like older guys are like, I don't want to wear skinny jeans. Like, you know, I'm not going to be fashionable. And then like, actually a lot of guys probably roughly around your age are going to be like, oh God, I'm not going to be fashionable. Don't make me take off my skinny jeans, you know? And so it's like,
I have never, except for a brief period where I thought I was a skater, I've never worn skinny jeans.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about that is that in skating, like the more room you have in your pants, the better off it is for you. So it's
at one point they made very stretchy skinny jeans that were great for athletic stuff for a brief period of time when I was in school. So we'll put it that way.
That's funny. So one of the things I'm going to say for people who care about getting about their clothes is that I think that you do a lot of benefit by learning classic style rules. So I think that like literally learning the rules. So one of the things, I'll tell a story. So there's this book here. It's called Ame Torah. It's a story about how Japan saved American style. You see a little sweatshirt, some loafers, some jeans. This book basically talks about how in the mid-century, as America was progressing, the Japanese took all of our fashions and basically preserved them. And so one of the reasons why you can buy jeans that look like 1940s jeans, the only reason why is because the Japanese saved them. They learned how to make it and they saved it. And one of the things when the Japanese, so in the early 1900s, they were westernizing, right? And there was a lot of tension over westernizing. And so one of the things that they needed was they didn't know how to wear Western clothes. And so there were guys who wrote a literal handbook. And so in this, they talk about how the first ever like youth style revolution in Japan was to dress like Ivy League college students. That's what rebellious kids did, is they wore penny loafers and like tweed jackets. But he wrote a handbook for them. And he literally said, if you wear this jacket, it has to have this color buttons and it has to be worn with only these two types of pants and with these shoes. And I think learning those rules for guys who don't know how to dress well is really, really important. And learn how clothes are supposed to fit. Those are the two most important things. You don't have to spend a lot of money on clothes if you know those two things. Which I think is another big thing, is that a lot of guys don't want to spend a lot of money on clothes, which is totally reasonable. So like this book has like a bunch of different like stuff in it. It's talking about like famous guys. It's talking about famous items. So it talks about like, here, wait, let me find it really quick. Loafers. So it's like photos of loafer brands and stuff like that. like learning good stuff, like classic stuff like that. This is a book that the guys who invented the handbook for how to dress Ivy League style, they went to Ivy League campuses and they made this book of photos of the different students and stuff. And so it's like photos of the campuses and all that kind of stuff. And so, but I think that one of the reasons I think that story is important is because in the same way that they had to learn how to dress in our style, which was foreign to them, we have to relearn our own style and it's now foreign to us, you know? Like if the Japanese wanted to be traditional, their culture of kimono and how to wear kimono has been preserved.
Yeah.
Our culture for men especially has not been. Most women, if they're in shape, will be able to find clothes that fit them for every single occasion and they know how to dress for every occasion.
And men don't have that.
Most men don't have that. And so you benefit a lot from looking into that. I also think in general, the more
I think feminism killed men's fashion. Actually, that's my actual conspiracy theory.
I think like 100 things killed men's fashion.
But hear me out. I'll just tell you real quick my theory. It's short. It's very short and sweet. When women decided they wanted to be like men and they started dressing like men, well, what do men do when women invade their space? They leave the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so men's fashion becomes women's fashion and men leave that space. And that's how you end up with men's fashion looking worse and worse over time. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, I think there's a lot of other reasons too, you know, with the liberalism and all that kind of stuff. But I'm planning on almost producing a book about like similar to that. I think I might do articles, like a series of articles, and then I might try to shop them around to a publisher or something like about.
No. Just start a Substack. You'll have your work on a platform where it's a portfolio for anybody to see. I would do that.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to do something. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but
Substack is free and you can monetize it.
Yeah. I really think there'd be a huge benefit for guys to have, I almost want to call it like the counter-revolutionary men's style guide or something like a name like that. TM, trademark me. You can't steal that. And so I think just to give guys, they can like look at it and they know exactly what they have to do. And it would leave, and it's going to be kind of fascistic as far as I'm going to say, like, you have to do this, you have to do that, because anyone who knows how to dress well enough would not be buying that book from me. And so anyone who needs the book needs to just listen. And
you're going to be like Barney on How I Met Your Mother. Suit up.
Yeah. And so if anyone wants to ask me about that kind of stuff, Majorian will give you free workout plans and I will help you buy clothes. And then 2 other books I think people should read. This is Revolution and Counter-Revolution. This is the handbook of the TFP, essentially. Okay. It basically outlines like the societal degradation. And this is like my theory. This theory is my adopted theory for how the world works outside of it. Obviously, it's already in a Christian lens. And this book is called Return to Order. And it talks about why like forcing political changes doesn't work and why we need organic changes, kind of like we were talking about at the end of the conversation, how things need to be local and need to come from the people. All of those are really good. Those are like some of my favorite things. If anyone has any questions that they want to ask me about clothes, about politics, go ahead. If anyone wants to follow me, follow me. I'm happy to talk to anyone. If anyone has anything that they want to say, like if you have, my thought is I would like to platform any counter-revolutionary man who has something to say. And, you know, I'm not, the way my brain works, if you don't have anything to say, I don't care about you enough to find something there. Like I'm not Joe Rogan. I can't talk with someone random. Like, I'm not going to be able to talk with like, actually, I was going to say a beekeeper or a spearfisher, but both of those actually sound really cool. So
you could definitely talk to those.
I could definitely talk to those people. I don't know.
There's at least 2 hours of content talking to a beekeeper.
Oh yeah. Actually, do you know the guy, his account's like OW Root or something?
So yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I could tell I could definitely talk to him for like 2 hours. But so I can't even come up with an example. But if anyone wants to talk to me or come on the show, just message me and let me know. Cigar mode, no, I think you should always wear socks with your loafers. And this is why I am opposed to Michael Knowles, because he goes sockless with his loafers. And I think that's really...
I wonder if there's a type of loafer that would make sense to go sockless with, though.
I think you can go sockless with boat shoes.
With boat
That's
shoes.
my
All right.
yeah, like this.
What if you can't see that there's no socks?
Like boat shoes.
What
But
if you can't see that there's no socks?
that's not possible. What do you mean? Your pants are so ridiculously long that no matter how you move your legs, you can't see? I don't think that's possible. I wear really wide leg pants and you can see my socks all the time. Well, I cross my legs when I sit, so that's probably why. But I think you should wear socks. I think we're an Anglo culture and Anglos wear socks, and I think you should listen to Anglo style rules and do that. But like I said, anyone who knows how to dress is allowed to break my rules because they shouldn't be coming to me for advice anyways.
All right. So I do want to give a quick shout out because I got corrected on something. And since we're on a podcast here, then this is a perfect time to talk about it. Josiah posted, and if you want to follow Josiah, it's at Steuben Thursday. He wrote, "The silver chair is about simping, by the way." And I was like, bro, I'm going to need an explanation or it's not true. And somebody came in with the explanation that I was not expecting. It was Angela Erickson. You guys know Angela, right?
Mm-hmm.
She goes by at integrated Ange on Twitter. It's you figure that out yourself. But she wrote, Prince Rillian was simping for the evil queen, got himself ensnared in a spell, and almost gave away his inheritance as a result. He was saved by Eustace, Jill, and Puddleglum when they finally helped him break the curse and reclaim his birthright. I concede it's about simping. You're right.
I've only read The Magician's Nephew and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so I don't even know.
The Silver Chair is actually one of C.S. Lewis's finest works in the Chronicles of Narnia. The best one is The Horse and His Boy. The one that they will never make a movie about because it's an anti-Islam book. But
is it really?
It is, yes.
That's based.
Yeah, it's very good. You should read The Horse and His Boy and The Silver Chair, even if you never read the other ones.
Okay. They're all pretty easy to just like pick up at any point, aren't they?
I have been able. So when I went and reread the Chronicles of Narnia, I read them all in like 2 hours each.
Oh, they're that short?
I don't know if they're that short, but I read fast.
Okay. I don't own them anymore. I think I'll wait until I have kids and then I'll read those out loud to them or something.
Oh, no. You should read them. You should read them ahead of time.
Oh, really?
They're worth reading. And then when you read to your kids, it's better if you know what's coming than if you don't.
That's fair.
Because I'm reading, I just reread them all last year, and I'm in the process of reading them all to my kids, and I benefited immensely because as they ask me questions while we're reading, I already know the answers to the questions they're asking me, and there's no like weird, well, let me read ahead and figure out what you're asking and then come back. And,
that makes sense.
No, you should definitely always read books before your kids read them if you can manage it, or at the very least know what the book's about.
That's fair. I'll have to cycle it. I'll do like Tolkien, then C.S. Lewis, then Yukio Mishima, then Tolkien, then C.S. Lewis, then Nietzsche, then Tolkien. I'm not sure that my kids will understand the gay science, but we'll get there. You
got to read the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis at the very least. That's everybody I talk to that's like in apologetics loves the Space Trilogy. So Kennedy Hall said it's his favorite trilogy by C.S. Lewis, favorite books by C.S. Lewis.
From all the pretentious people I know, I hear that a lot of pretentious people love it and a lot of pretentious people don't like it. It seems to be very divisive. I think because, well, I mean, I don't know anything. I literally know nothing about it. So I think that whatever he did with it must have been so unique that
it really was.
Yeah. So that is interesting. Unless you're like, I mean, they're children's books, so it's hard to hate the Chronicles.
Not the space. Oh, Narnia. Yes, yeah. Those are technically children's books.
Unless you're like, children's books, man. Like it's hard to hate on those. But like anything that's really, really good should be divisive.
The Space Trilogy is the third book is basically an entire commentary on progressive culture.
Interesting.
And it does a very good job of showing the inherent faults within it. So,
all right. There you go.
The second book is basically like a retelling of Genesis, except where you're in the perspective of trying to talk Eve out of listening to the devil.
That's pretty base. That actually sounds pretty cool.
It's my favorite book by C.S. Lewis, fiction-wise, period.
Interesting. Okay, I'll have to look into that. I hate to bounce, but I'm really hungry. I kind of
No, you're good. You're good. We're 2 hours in. I was going to talk about fashion and anyway.
This was super fun. We'll have to do it again. Maybe more towards the end of fall. That would probably be good because I'll be able to reload with enough new topics by then.
Sounds like a plan, and we can talk about your current big event coming up by then because you should be
Yeah, then
do
I'll be
that by
married.
then.
So then I can talk about what it's like being, and because then I'll have been married for like 2.5, 3 months. So then I can talk about what it's like being married.
There you go. All
There
right.
we go.
Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you, anybody in the comment section. We really appreciate it. And I'm gonna have to like manually roll this outro, so bear with me for like 2 seconds. And then I'll have to hit the end button. All right. So, anyways, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.